Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. I got a great show planned for today. Of course, NBA Finals on the horizon later on this week. But of course, so the Mavs are in it. A lot of Mavs fans are excited. So we'll start breaking that down today. Also, we'll get into this weekend festivities on the 40 acres. There is some good news and some bad news. Good news, Texas softball, they advanced. They actually will be playing Stanford in a showdown there in the semifinal. You also have women's the rowing team, which also won the national championship. So shout out to them. But Texas baseball season is done for Texas baseball. So there's a lot of discussion on the 40 acres about the future of the Texas baseball team. We'll get into that. We'll talk about it a little bit here coming up here in this segment. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. There we'll talk some Texas football. We'll go over some of my off-season study. I'm doing a breakdown, self-scouting, if you will, for Texas. Let you know exactly what I found, especially about the trenches for the Longhorns. But also, we got to give some props to Bert Auburn. Congratulations on Auburn, because he is now a scholarship athlete. We'll talk about that and why that story, those stories that we see all around the country, actually, they actually may going by the wayside with the new framework of college football. We may not be seeing those walk-on scholarship stories much longer. We'll talk about why that is. We'll get into that coming up. We got some Cowboys discussion coming up in the show. There is now good news, optimism around the Dak Prescott contract negotiations for the Cowboys. We'll get into it. CJ Stroud was on a podcast and revealed top quarterback from the 2023 season, and we must discuss it because all you Dak heads out there, y'all may be interested to see what he had to say about his top five and his little tease there. Yeah, Dak Prescott makes it into the top five for CJ Stroud. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about what's going on in all around in the WNBA. There's a story percolating about Caitlin Clark. Apparently, she is being abused in the WNBA as a rookie. So we got time. We'll dive into that too, because that is a big topic of conversation nationally. So a lot to get into on the show. Also, NFL coaches are hinting, special teams coaches are hinting the new hybrid XFL NFL kickoff return rule may influence them to get a little bit extreme and unorthodox with some of their approaches. So we'll talk about that actually in Rod's Rant. I want to get into that, talk a little football theory in Rod's Rant. So plan to get into on the show. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew, because he's the hardest working member of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. I'm not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler. It is my friend and neighbor. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Oh, it is a Monday morning, ready to go. You can tell I've not talked in several hours.
Yeah, that's good, man. Yeah, you gotta save it. You gotta save it, man.
It's gonna be, it's another good week here in Austin, Texas. We're getting more into the summer, but Texas is still alive in softball. So there's something to look forward to, something to watch on the horizon.
Yeah, that's the last of the sports, right? They're the last one alive, and then
they're the last. Unless there's something really small or something. I don't want to say really small, but something that I've not heard anything about. That would be the last one. But let me introduce my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro as always, brother. Yes, so that's some good news on the 40 acres, but some not so good news. Texas baseball fans are a little bit upset that their season ended what they thought was prematurely, but I think in the manner in which they lost, also they were upset. The manner in which they lost to Louisiana. So I think that also probably upset them a little bit, but we'll get to it. We'll talk about it. A lot of folks out there believe that Texas baseball will be potentially looking for a new coach. I think the crowd is pretty split, or at least Texas baseball fans are pretty split from what I can understand about whether Coach Pierce is the right man for the job going into the SEC, which we know SEC baseball. It's that's the best in the country. It's like SEC football. Yeah. Ain't nothing like it. So we'll talk about that. We'll get into it a little bit. But first, we'll get the Horn headlines from my man Patrick Davis. Remember, we got your usual favorites. We have what the facts, what the stats. We have the big fat poll of the day. My man Patrick. Also, we'll have off the record. We'll have who said that. So also, you got your usual favorites on the show. But let's not waste any time. First, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day. Then we'll get back and start talking a little NBA Finals. We'll start to just a little bit on the superficial way. We'll start to preview the NBA Finals a little bit, and then we'll also dive into what's going on the 40 acres with the Texas baseball team. All that. Before we do, let's get informed, updated, and educated on all the top stories of the day with the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball had no problem taking care of Florida 10-0 in 5 innings on Saturday to advance the Women's College World Series. To advance in the College Women's World Series. After a dominant performance by Mag Morgan, who only allowed 1 hit in the game, the Longhorns will now face Stanford once again in a matchup where Texas has 2 chances to win 1 game to advance to the finals, where they will play the winner of Florida and Oklahoma. Texas baseball dropped 2 games in their regional this weekend, ending the Longhorn season in disappointing fashion. A heartbreaking 11-inning loss to Texas A&M on Saturday led way to a return matchup with Louisiana on Sunday, where Texas could not get going, losing 10-2 and finishing their season earlier than expected. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their series to the Twins over the weekend, with Ryan Presley giving up the go-ahead run on Sunday in the 8th inning. The Astros now move on to a series with the Cardinals, with Verlander taking the mound for the Astros tonight. And the Rangers took care of the Marlins 2-1, with Corey Seager extending his hitting streak to 15 games over the weekend, and it pulls the Rangers back to just 1 game under 500 on the season. They will now take on the Tigers this week, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yeah, and it's interesting. Texas going up against Stanford in the Women's College World Series, because I believe, I know it's down to Texas and Stanford for the Directors Cup. Stanford has a lead on Texas for the Directors Cup. I can't tell you exactly what the point total is. I'll look it up and see if I can find it. I know there's a really good Twitter account that keeps up with it. But they also will, if you look at it, they beat Stanford in rowing. I believe it was. Stanford was also the in the championship against Texas in rowing. So they have some head-to-heads here that I believe the head-to-head over somebody that's obviously in the running will help you a little bit more. I'm just not sure what the point total is for Texas. I know Texas, last time I looked at it, was second. So Texas trying to get their third Directors Cup in 4 years.
Yeah, when I saw it, it was still at least pro rowing winning a national championship.
The rowing team has been dominant.
Yeah,
I believe. I'll go look at it, but I want to say, is that back to back for the rowing?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
No, could not tell you. I'm not joking. No, because we've been talking about, we always bring this up, like, about different teams. But I believe last time we talked about Directors Cup, it was rowing's either one. This will be their second national title in 3 years, or it's their back to back. If I'm not mistaken, I'll go make sure on that. But I believe last time we were talking about the Directors Cup, we were talking about rowing, because it's only ain't a lot of teams out there that's rowing. Let's be honest. All right, it's only a few teams, that's only a few Power 5 programs that are rowing and putting that kind of resources into rowing. And Texas and Stanford, obviously.
Texas won it in 21 and 22. Stanford won it in 23, and Texas won it this year.
All right, so so Texas won 3 out of the last 4 years.
3 out of the last 4, yes.
See, and it's them and Stanford, yes. So I knew that, because I was like, every time we talk about this, rowing is at the top of the list. Like, man, rowing. So rowing's, I don't know what SEC rowing is, but I'm assuming Texas is going to go in there as the powerhouse of rowing, going to the SEC.
I'm looking at previous champions, and I'm not seeing a lot of SEC.
Gonna dominate that, baby. Yeah,
I see some Pac-12. So they're big. So Big Ten. So Big Ten's in there, because Ohio State had 3 of them. Virginia's got one, and then it's like a lot of Ivy Leagues that started it.
So we're going Midwest to West, basically, and then Ivy Leagues, and then Midwest, West Coast. That's not something that the Southeast really cares about. Basically, that's not really one of the sports they care about. There'll be some stuff like that Texas isn't into. That, I wonder how beach volleyball is in the SEC. I know the West Coast is great on beach volleyball. I wonder how they are, because that kind of stuff. Anyway, but Texas is actually just
they just, I believe, started their beach volleyball program like a year ago. Or maybe it's just about, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember that was
Texas,
but that was
right? That was a big initiative.
Yeah, because it was the process of talking to volleyball. How do we continue to get the best recruits? And it's like, well, you have to get a beach volleyball team as well, because a lot of these people want to play both. And so if someone wants to play both because they want to go to the Olympics or want to try to do something else in beach volleyball, then they'll go to another. We're losing recruits to it. And CDC, being the man that he is, said, cool, get us a team.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't even think about that. That's a good. Yeah, that's actually, it makes sense. And I wonder, like I said, I don't know much about volleyball like that. I got to research it. The seasons, like how different the seasons are.
I don't know. I just remember Jared Elliott talking about that.
No,
that was one of the main reasons they wanted to get beach volleyball. Was it was a reason why recruits were not coming. They said, well, forget that. We'll go get it.
Yeah, we'll bring a lot of sand around here. Now we ain't got no necessarily a beach here, but we will make something. We will make something very close to it. There you go. All right. So let's get into Texas baseball just a little bit here. Texas baseball. Now it's like I said, the fact that they lost before most Texas baseball fans predicted is disappointing, but I think also in the manner in which Texas baseball lost is equally disappointing and frustrating for Texas baseball fans. First time since 2019 that David Pearson Longhorns haven't made it to the Super Regionals, but finished their regular season unranked with no title, Big 12 title or regular season title of any kind. Texas also snaps its streak of consecutive super regional appearances at 4 years. So it could just be an aberration, but I think the fear for Texas baseball fans is going into the SEC, where we know, I mean, Texas SEC baseball is the best in the country. There will likely be a champion that will be from the SEC. And they got a bunch of powerhouse programs in the SEC. And I think a lot of the, I'm going to say paranoia, the anxiety about where the state of the program is for Texas baseball fans is the fact that the Aggies are right now as a baseball program. They are one of the best in the country, and they are considered elite. And I mean, your rival being elite in something obviously puts a lot more pressure on you if you are not performing at a certain standard.
Yeah, and that game was, to go to extra innings with the Aggies, to get it all the way to the 8th inning, and then the Aggies get a run in the 8th to tie the game up, and then you go to extra innings. Disappointing, because for baseball fans, for Texas, you basically within 24 hours got the gut punch and then wiped out the next day. So, it was a quick turnaround of playing that night game against A&M and feeling like you had a really good shot to win that one and get one over on your rival, get a head up in the regional, and then it all kind of comes crumbling down there. You lose that game, and then, just can't put it together and have that, a really bad inning in the Louisiana game. I believe it was a 7-run inning given up in that.
Oh, man. Yeah, because they started out great, right?
And they started out, looked like they were going to rebound okay and keep it alive, beat Louisiana again, because they played great against Louisiana on Friday. And then, you thought they were going to bounce back, and then it was a disappointing, because it was 2 games in a row that you blew where you had the lead going into the later innings, and you just couldn't hold on to it, and disappointing.
You were, after Ace Whitehead's, nearly 7 innings.
Yeah.
Texas allowed just 2 earned runs on 7 hits, 6 strikeouts, and they had walked 1 batter. And, he allowed only 2 runs still, but ended up taking the loss, because after they put in Charlie Hurley, Hurley allowed 6 earned runs on 5 hits with 2 strikeouts in that disastrous 8th inning you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, and that was pretty much it. Texas was down 2-1 after the first 7 innings. And then things kind of spiraled out of control for Texas. And that was actually the story. They actually they didn't get much run support. I mean, since that winner's bracket loss in extras to A&M on June 1st, they managed just 4 runs over 20 innings. The Longhorns did. So not a lot of run support as well.
No, I mean, that was, you felt like it. And that's, I was texting some people on Friday, and you're like, where has this team been? This team that looks like they can, this is a team that compete, and, they didn't show up in the Big 12 tournament. They've been playing better at the end of the season, but the game against Louisiana, and remember, Louisiana, they were the lower seed. Texas was a 3 seed going into that regional. They weren't the 2 seed. Louisiana was. So, you were in a tournament where they felt like they were disrespected being the 3 seed, even though they didn't earn it because they just didn't have a great early season. Then, so you have that team show up, and then the bats kind of disappear. I get A&M's a really good team, so you don't necessarily think that's going to be a blowout, but you that one you give up
3
late.
errors in that game too.
Yes, you gave up. That's the other part is you gave up that run. It's not an earned run even because the errors. There was 2 errors in that end of the game for the Longhorns that allowed A&M to win. So it just everything about it where it just not getting it put together, and to basically to have that strong finish to the season for Texas and then get to the playoffs and go 1-4 in postseason play is not what you want to see. I don't think that makes anybody happy to drop 2 straight games in the Big 12 tournament. You say, screw it, we're out of the Big 12. Forget that. We're going to move on to the regional, and you get a big win and then drop 2 more immediately. You don't want to go 1-4 to finish your season. That's not going to make anybody happy.
Yeah, you're right about that. And Longhorn baseball fans are not happy at all. And so I'm not sure, but I will admit I'm not sure about what they should do because Coach Pierce, I think his win percentage is around what 63%, 65%, and his teams pretty much have the same arc every year. They start a little slow, they find their groove or find their identity, like right around the conference schedule, start of conference schedule, middle of conference schedule, and usually they make a run in the postseason. But you just pointed out the frustration would be that no, they're 1-4 in the postseason, and the last few years, they haven't been able to build on the momentum that they have in the postseason. We've talked about this. It seems like every year Texas baseball is resetting under Coach Pierce, right? Under Sark, this is what whole programs are supposed to be. Under Sark, you go look at it. Look at Texas Vic Schaefer women's basketball. Hell, we just talked about a lot of the programs. I'm sure rowing's the same way. If you actually can document it, there's a stacking of your seasons and on top of one another where you build from that postseason run, whatever it was. Like, oh man, we made it to Sark's like, I'm obsessed with making it to national title because we made it to the semis.
Yeah.
So now national title is what we're thinking about here. And it seems like you build on the season before, and then the next season you use that as a catapult you to another level. It feels like part of the frustration for Texas baseball fans is they reset every year. They have to reset again. That they don't build on the previous. And Texas baseball fans, let me know if I'm way off here. They don't build on the previous postseason. You're not going to win the national title every damn year. Even Texas baseball fans who are a blue blood program, they get that too. They're not unrealistic. But I think they feel like they have to start out after they get the momentum in the postseason. It's like, oh man, this team made a run, Super Regionals. All right, next year, all right, this team, these are the lessons they learned. This was development from these certain players. They're going to develop into leaders. They're going to take the next step. And then they don't really do that. They almost have to reset and then overcome some of the same obstacles or new obstacles, or the development seems stunted by certain players. It is strange that you don't get that momentum built from the previous season with Coach Pearson. Maybe it's because the coaching changes. Maybe that maybe it's because coaching changes, changing pitching coaches. That could be it too. A lot of the lack of continuity within the staff. It could be a number of different things. I don't know exactly what it is. I think that's part of the frustration though from Longhorn fans.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly because every year it feels like you get out of the postseason and it feels like there's a little bit of excuses in, okay, well, we know what the problem is, so we're going to fix it, and not so much of it, what you say is building on it, where you don't want to be saying there's a problem and we're going to fix it, which is, okay, we know we haven't addressed yet and we're going to fix what we haven't addressed, but we've got this now covered. Every year it feels like you have to you're trying to find what your strength is and what your weakness is. And David Pierce wants to be a pitching guy, but the reality is the last couple of years what's kept him in there is a long ball. And it doesn't feel like he's even trying to be a long ball team, but that's what they've done to keep him in these seasons the last few years. So to not ever really have what it feels like a plan and a brand of baseball that you want to play, that's what it feels like. It's really hard to get by for this Texas team, and why it's harder to believe that Pierce is the guy to turn it around, because he does have a lot of redeeming qualities, but it just doesn't seem like he has that intangible ability to get to that next level.
Listen, I've said this before in my I call the sports kind of Hall of Fame sports rule of 3.
Yeah.
If you will. It in nothing. I mean, like I said, Coach Pierce has won 65% of his games.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Garrido's, I think his winning percentage was at like at 65, 67%, but when it mattered, winning national titles, right, and winning in the postseason. But I think ultimately for Coach Pierce, he is a good coach, but the standard for Texas baseball is really high. And like I said, when you have Gus, Hall of Famer, then Augie Garrido, Hall of Famer, all-time great, maybe the greatest of all time, and then you're trying to have a third Hall of Famer in a row, that's really tough in any sport, any sports organization, any sports program to do that at any position or with any role with a team, period. Whether you're talking about coaches, players, quarterbacks, whatever, it really doesn't matter. Like you think about it, only the Pittsburgh Steelers have been able to really do it at head coach. In the NFL, that's one example. I think you gave another example of Kansas basketball.
Yes, Kansas basketball with Larry Brown, Bill Self, and now Roy Williams. Sorry, Roy Williams. Yeah, Larry Brown, Roy Williams, Bill Self.
Great example, but it doesn't happen a lot. I threw this out there about Oklahoma and Brent Venables. Like when you go from Bob Stoops, and I don't know if even Lincoln Riley's going to be that anymore. Lincoln Riley hadn't learned how to coach defense yet, so we got to figure that out for him.
Yeah,
but it's just really hard to get 3 all-time great Hall of Famers in a row. Just the odds are against you. So I'm not even. So Coach Pierce he's obviously a good coach. Is he an all-time great? Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? I don't know. I don't right now. I don't know. I don't think so. But my point is, it's hard to get 3 of those in a row. And I think that's why that's also working against Coach Pierce is that's the standard for Texas baseball fans.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame coach, period. And they're like, well, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. And I think you're right about one of the biggest things you've said so far too is what does A&M do? If A&M goes on and wins a national championship,
wow.
then it's almost the writing's on the wall on that one. Because now your rival's excelling and succeeding at a very high level, and you're not.
Yep,
that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no. If the Aggies win it all, then and I say one of the odds I saw had them as favorites, but they win it all. Yeah, there's going to be some blowback from that. That just happens. I mean, ask Mac Brown when Oklahoma won it all in 2000. And I was there on campus when it happened, and you could feel it. It was palpable. Your rivals just won a national title. It's on. The pressure is on. Your 9 and 10 and 9 wins and double-digit wins are not enough. Hey, I got the number 1 recruiting class in the country, and Texas is winning 9 games. Just had a Heisman Trophy winner. On their way to winning 11 games, and it still wasn't enough. And Longhorn fans let Mac know it too. Like, nah, man, it's not enough. Why? Because Oklahoma just won a national title. That's why. So I need you gotta pick it up. You gotta take it to the next level. And I think if A&M wins it all, Coach Pierce is gonna feel that too. The Texas baseball program is gonna feel it, and they should. Texas. That's the standard of the brand, and I don't know if there's a higher standard for any program on the 40 acres.
Well, no, I mean, but we can say, and this is not necessarily for what the school is gonna say, but I can tell you that Texas basketball has not done poorly the last couple of seasons, and there is a large contingent of fans who would love it if Rodney Terry was fired today. They would say that was what's better for the basketball program. I'm not one of those people, but I've dealt with them enough on our text line when I was doing my show that there's a large contingent of people that don't like what he's doing, and he's won. He went to the Elite 8 his first year. He won a game in the tournament his second year, and that's not a normal thing, and that's. Texas basketball has not been the brand that Texas baseball has. And people still want that level to be, it's a national champion. We need to be a national championship level team. And if you look at Texas baseball last few years, even though they've been there, I don't think Texas baseball has been a national championship level team for several years. And it's not building that way. It's right at where it's at, and it's stayed pretty consistent. This is a down year for it, but it stayed around the level they've been at the last few years.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right about that. It's like I said, you're right. I think everybody's expectation at Texas, because of all. Honestly, it probably could do with all the other sports doing so well.
Yeah.
Like all the other sports doing well. So whatever sport that you are invested in personally, the pressure now I think has increased exponentially. Like, nah, man, I'm looking at Texas. Hell, I'm say looking at rowing and softball, but it is. I mean, they're looking at all these other sports. You're looking at women's basketball and Texas football now and what they've done, and I think it's putting a lot more pressure on all the sports. And I think that's what CDC wants. He wants all the programs in the top 10. That's like the floor. That's the base expectation. Like everybody's a top 10 program, and I think most of the programs are there. Texas baseball, obviously, right now is not.
No, and CB just brought up a good point. Texas been doing well in football. Did help get Jimbo fired at A&M.
You're so right, CB. You're right. Man, man. I'm saying whatever your rival's doing, it is. That's why, man. Auburn's been going through hell in the Nick Saban era. You're like, damn it, man. Like it's been going through. Think about that.
Auburn just throwing a parade, and then they heard Kalen DeBoer came in. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, man.
Someone
Screw it up just once, please. No, but that's I say, because I'm telling you, your rival, whatever they do, it does have a direct effect on your program. All right, good discussion there. We come back. I want to get into some NBA, but we'll do that. We got time. We got plenty of time talking NBA Thursday. Actually, the NBA final starts. We got plenty of time to dive into that. Let's go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. We got it. This Burt Auburn sound always gives me the good feels, man, the goosebumps when these walk-on to scholarship videos surface in the offseason. I like them for any program, but of course, you like it for your program. So we'll hear the one for Burt Auburn. Then I'll come back and give you a factoid about Burt Auburn that just totally encapsulates the new era of college football. So we'll talk about that. Also, I've been doing some deep dive research about Texas's 2023 season. One of the groups I've been really interested in is that 6 offensive line package. I'll tell you what I found with that as well. All of that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis, lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Hey, I want to say about our friends at Texan Windows. They are your new and replacement window experts in Central Texas. You can discover affordable windows and sliding glass doors. If you're looking to enhance the curb appeal of your home, maybe change the operation of your windows, remove the grids on your window, get a look that you feel comfortable with going into summer. You want to be looking out those windows on your beautiful lawn, then why don't you call our friends at Texan Windows? Maybe you're using that back patio more and you need to check out that sliding glass door that works better for what your needs are. You can do that, but it's not just about the looks.
Oh, it doesn't matter if you're looking for that aesthetic appeal that you're talking about there, Patrick, or if you're just trying to save money. That's also another great reason that you can hit up our friends over at Texan Windows. Energy efficient windows from Texan Windows, because they're all windows made with argon-filled double pane low E glass to keep your home cool in the summer during those hot Texas summer days, but also to keep your house warm during those winter months as well. But these energy efficient windows will save you and your family money on your annual energy bills, folks. And trust me, I'm a baller on the budget. What could you do with that extra savings on your energy bills? That's also something that you gain with new windows from Texan Windows, and also the safety of your home and the safety of your family. Right now, I'm trying to child-proof everything around the house because I have an 8-month-old and make sure everything's child-proof. Your windows also need to be child-proof as well. And it doesn't matter if it's just your, obviously the young kids you're trying to protect around the house, but also trying to protect your home, period. If you got older windows, they're probably not up to all the latest safety protocols. They probably don't have the latest safety technology. Well, Texan Windows and their latest windows, they do. They have all of that, and you can get informed about that as well, and also get informed about their great deals they have right now. Man, Patrick will let you know exactly how you can do it.
Get started with our friends at Texan Windows at TexanWindows.com or 855-55-TEXAN to get a hassle-free estimate by email or phone, whatever's easier for you. Or you can stop by their showroom in Buda, got a new one there, and in Fort Worth. check out what they got in stock. It's TexanWindows.com. Texan Windows, your Central Texas window experts.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast right here on the Horn. Time to go behind the burnt orange curtain. My man CB once again throwing out the factoids here. He said if this is it for David Pierce, it'll be the shortest tenure for a Texas baseball coach since Blair Cherry, who was the head coach from 1943 to 1945. Yeah, did Blair Cherry leave to go coach football, or did he coach football before coaching baseball? Because he coached both, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Wasn't he a football coach and a baseball? Yeah, he was. I want to say he was a football coach and a baseball coach. At one point. Yeah, right? Everybody say, yeah, there he goes. Yeah, he was. Yeah, coach got so he coached baseball first at Texas. And then
he was an assistant football coach while he was the baseball coach, and then took over his head coaching like a year after baseball.
So he was head baseball coach 1943, 1945, and then from 47 to 50 was the head football coach. And actually was pretty damn good. I mean, he was 32, 10, and 1 as a head football coach. Not bad. His last year ended up going 9 and 2. Win the Cotton Bowl, win 10 and 1 this first year.
Better football coach than baseball coach.
Still, his last year as a baseball coach, they were 11 and 1.
Yeah, he was 30 and 23 in baseball though. So I'll say he won more football games than baseball games.
Oh, I got him as. Oh, really? Huh?
That's what Wikipedia says. You can look at another record. I cannot state the validity of this.
Wikipedia has him as 24 and 6 as a baseball coach.
All right. At Texas, probably. Maybe a different.
Yes,
I don't know.
At Texas. See. Yeah, I'm talking about at Texas. Yeah, I'm looking at Texas. I'm not looking. Well, I'm looking at his head coaching record at Texas is what I have. So he was damn good at both, actually. Overall, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Thanks for the factoid there, CB. Appreciate it. All right, let's get to my man Bert Auburn. And you got his at Texas, right? He's 30 and 23 in college baseball, but as a Texas, he was 24 and 6. So I don't know why he left the baseball program. He wasn't a bad baseball coach at Texas.
No, probably just wanted to do football more. I don't know. It's a long time ago.
But it's a lot more. I get. You know what? You're probably getting paid more and everything too. Said he's 32 and 10 as a college football coach, and you're right. He says 30 and 23 as a college baseball coach. But at Texas, like I said, he was winning games at Texas. Anyway, getting back to it, let's get to Bert Auburn and why congratulations are in order for Bert Auburn, because he is now officially a scholarship player. Here is the audio of Steve Sarkisian in a team meeting announcing the news.
The work ethic, they go through the same grind the scholarship guys go on all summer long. So when we can reward those guys, man, there's nothing better. Bert Auburn, you're on scholarship.
Love all you guys. You guys are all like a family to me. Couldn't be more excited to get to work this summer with y'all. Okay.
There you go. That's Bert Auburn now earning a scholarship. And I got this factoid from my man Bobby Burton over at On Texas Football. Last year, Bert Auburn earned more money in NIL than his scholarship was worth. Or at least it would have been worth.
Yeah, I mean that is a new era of NIL now, because I know that there's been there's been some other schools that have had guys that have gone there on walk-ons that they're like, well, that guy's recruited to like other major schools, but he realized that the NIL will be worth more to go, and he wants to go there. So, but it is. I'll tell you what's interesting about it is when we talk about the that world where NIL and walk-ons are not the same, but the question now, will walk-ons still exist in college football? As revenue sharing starts and all that, the question that Sark's been asking a couple times in his pressers, he clearly wants walk-ons. If he had a kicker that was a walk-on, you clearly want to have them. So, are they still going to be a piece of football? Or are you going to be, at a level of this is how many players I get?
Yeah, with the roster limits being part of the new framework of college football, and they don't know what the number is. I believe a number's been thrown out there is 85. Or 85 or fewer. Apparently, from what I can gather, and I heard Bobby Burton talking about this once again on Texas Football because he was there at the SEC spring meetings. He said the coaches want walk-ons.
Yeah.
Most of the coaches, they want walk-ons. They love the walk-on program. As you just said, Sark, he's passionate about it because his son is a walk-on there, even at Texas. So they're passionate about the walk-ons. It's the administrators and the athletic directors and the presidents, so a lot of the decision makers who are just trying to cut expenses, period.
Yeah.
At this point, we got a $20-something million bill that we got to pay with revenue sharing. We got to cut expenses. And walk-ons, they're expensive. They don't cost you anything coming in, but I still, in terms of the pads and practice and they also have to have locker room space and then meals and per diem. Like you're talking
about another.
It still adds up. Football generates the most revenue, but it also costs the most money. It's your biggest expense too.
Yeah,
on top of your biggest source of revenue.
When you talk about also the expense of traveling with another 40 to 50 people.
Now they have a travel roster. They don't travel walk-ons.
That's true. They don't always travel.
Yeah, so they have a travel roster. They don't travel walk-ons, but it's still the cost of having that many people on your team. It's just another 30, 40 people you have to account for. Like I said, I believe they get per diem on some things, like stuff like depending on what you're doing, like bowl games, they travel, right? To say so bowl games, everybody goes, walk-ons included. And then that's expensive to have them. So it's just, trust me, I think the coaches are like, man, we make enough money. It's a bill that we can afford to pay. And the administrator is saying, yeah, we could back in the day. Now with this new revenue sharing, we need to be running as streamlined as possible. And walk-ons are a cost that, is not a necessity in the new framework of college football. So like the coaches want it. The administrators are like, no, it's going to be expensive. They haven't even come up with the roster limit number yet, guys. It could be low. Listen, the NFL makes it work with how many practice squad guys and how many guys on the actual squad? Was it a 53-man roster? And how many guys on the practice squad now? Was it 16 or something?
Yeah.
That's 70. That's it.
Yeah.
The NFL, so the administrator is saying, listen, the NFL gets through a 17-game season and a postseason, and they got like 70 guys. Why y'all need 80-something? They literally are asking that question. No, I'm serious.
They are.
But think about it. Why? Why do you need 85 then? If the NFL can do it with 70, you give me the reason why you need 85 and you playing fewer games.
I mean, there's an easy answer to that, which is we need more guys because we're getting recruits, and a lot of these guys are not going to be able to play. And I know you want us to have a better shot, but we got to develop talent. So we have to have freshmen that are not going to play for their first couple of years so we can get to a higher level. So, there is justifiable reasons.
Oh, no, I understand. It's plenty of reasons. I'm just saying, that's what you got to understand. Now you're dealing with bureaucrats and politicians now, pretty much.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're not trying to learn on the basic level, the detail of what you're doing, your process and method. They don't give a damn. They're looking at a spreadsheet and they're looking at
exactly.
Like, no, these expenses and this is a profit margin, man. Listen, the NFL, I'm looking at, and what did Stark say? Y'all need to start looking to the NFL. Look to the NFL. They've already solved these problems. Look to the NFL. So they're looking to the NFL and going, the NFL's doing it, man. They're making a whole lot of money and they're doing it with like 70 guys. Why do you need 80-some guys? But the truth is, really why they need 80-something guys, and you just said it, Patrick, it's development. Now, guys get to the NFL level, grown man bodies, they've already been through, higher levels of nutrition and training, and it's mostly for guys. It's mostly for your development of your lines of scrimmage. You got these young kids who are coming out of high school on the O-line, the D-line. It takes a little while.
Yeah,
that takes a little while. That you should put those guys in the system. They can't just play right away. You mostly just ruin their skill set. They develop bad habits. They haven't developed their grown men bias. Not a strength conditioning program. Look at what Texas is doing right now in the O-line. Some of these guys have been on these O-line in the program for what? Part of the process for what? 3 years now. Stockpiling, because you got to get them right. You got to build the mass. You got to build the armor for those guys. Teach them the right technique. So I think the D line's the same way. So I think I'm with you. I think the reason I would argue you need 80-something is for development of the lines of scrimmage. My wide receivers and DBs and the quarterbacks, they're coming out a little bit more refined and a little bit more fine-tuned than they used to. That's fine. Lines of scrimmage, I still need to add mass. I still need to add muscle. I can't have these teenagers coming out of high school and thrown into play a grown man's game. And it's just gonna hurt my quarterback, number one, because these are protecting the most valuable asset I have, which is quarterback, and it's gonna hurt the game. It's gonna hurt the product overall with bad O-line play and bad line of scrimmage play. So I think that's why I would argue, you need 80-something, because I need to be sitting and developing, almost kind of redshirting how many guys per year, like 15, 20?
Yeah.
Basically, some of the lines of scrimmage on both sides, like. You're going to probably need 8 on offense that you're kind of sitting and just, developing and letting them learn and develop their IQ mentally, physically, whatever. And then also on the D line, that's going to be like, I don't know, 8 guys that you'll have like that. And so what? If you got a 80-something man roster, and I'm doing that on both sides of the ball, I'm talking about like 20%, 15 to 20% of your roster, I'm going to need to basically redshirt. Doing air quotes here. I don't even know if that's going to be a thing, like in the new era of college football. I have no idea what they're going to do.
No, because if you say you're good enough to make a roster that's at size limit at a major school, you are planning to go to the NFL, and you really don't want to wait another year to redshirt and do that. Yeah, no, I mean, the reality too is the one sales pitch you constantly give is, you want us to play more games? You want us to be in the playoff and do that? Well, we need bodies, because people are going to get hurt. People are going to be, and you know what'll make you look really bad? Injuries will look worse when we tell we can't field a team anymore because, we were only allowed 5 wide receivers and 3 of them got hurt. So we got 2 wide receivers now the rest of the season.
Yeah, and you got to transfer portal window. So it's not the NFL. You can go in free agency and go, all right, we got to go pick up some wide receivers.
No.
What do you do in college if you have a rash of injuries at one position? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, if you say we have 2 quarterbacks on the roster and they both get hurt, well, we're handing the ball off rest of the season.
And usually you'd go to your walk-on pool for that.
Exactly.
Because the walk-on is going to play.
Yeah.
And you don't have that. I don't know how they're going to sort through it. It's like I said, it's a lot of different ways to look at it. They got to find a compromise. But I'm just giving you both sides. The coaches want the walk-ons. Administration, they do not. Like I said, they're a bunch of politicians and bureaucrats. They're like, hey, the NFL doesn't. Like, well, the NFL did expand technically their practice squad when they got the 17th game. Yeah, and they're going to expand it again when they get an 18th game.
What should we have? Should we have, 25 walk-ons or one useless bureaucrat that does nothing but tells us we don't need 25 walk-ons? Which one should we get rid of? And surprisingly, it's going to be the 25 walk-ons.
It's going to be 25 walk-ons. Yeah. No, you're right. But no, it's like I said, that's why, from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, that's basically the struggle that's going on. And I don't know where they're going to end up with the compromise here. All right, so there you go. But congrats to Bert Auburn. By the way, I don't think we paid attention to how crucial Bert Auburn was. So remember, Bert Auburn last year when he took over at the kicker position, he converted 21 of 26 field goal attempts. Following, obviously Cameron Dicker, because Dicker the kicker, for that job. And he scored 118 points, the second most in a single season for a Longhorns kicker. I didn't realize he was that high up on the single season scoring list. He set a program and conference record, with 19 consecutive made field goals. I remember when that happened. He set the school's single season record with 29 made field goals while scoring 143 points. That was the most ever for a kicker, and that was last season, and the third most for any Longhorns player. So he is going to end up, I don't know what kind of season he has, he's going to end up as one of the highest scoring players of all time at Texas. Like, I don't think we pay attention to how record-setting Bert Arban's last 2 seasons have been.
I mean, but it makes sense, doesn't it? That if you say this is a prolific offense that is awful in the red zone.
Yes.
If you say this is a great offense that has trouble finishing the drives, then your kicker is going to get a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, they weren't as bad in 2021, but you're right. They're right about that. 2023, they were terrible. In 2022, they weren't as bad, but in 2023, they were terrible. So you're right, because in 2022, like I said, he was 21 of 26, had 118 points. And in 2023, he had the 29 made field goals, had 143 points. So I guess the point is he shouldn't be breaking records like this. That's the whole point.
He shouldn't be getting the opportunities, but that's why he's on scholarship. Because Sark said, "Hey man, you really saved me because my offense was not doing something right, and really appreciate you."
Yeah, I still don't know what happened in the red zone. I've been trying to figure it out. I don't think Sark really figured it out either, but he did change his approach and started kicking more field goals and taking the points instead of gambling in the red zone. But yeah, shout out to Bert Arban. I mean, like I said, back-to-back seasons. He has had record-setting performances, and he got better last year. He could be in the running to be an all-conference kicker in the SEC. He may be one of your favorites to be an all-SEC player from Texas, actually, when you think about it. Considering, I mean, you're going into a league, line of scrimmage league. It's going to be Carson Beck's going to be one of the best quarterbacks there. Like, who's a favorite to be an all-SEC player? Like, who would you put money on right now that they're likely to be all SEC, most likely to be all SEC?
I don't know.
Bert Arban's in the conversation, I think.
Yeah.
He's got to be. Right?
He's got to be, yeah.
Kelvin Banks, it's probably Kelvin Banks and him. If you pick somebody who's like, no, this person is most likely to be like all SEC. I mean, you would think that Quinn should be on there, but they got good quarterbacks, and guarantee that Quinn's going to have that great a year. He should.
Yeah, and I mean, and Carson Beck's in that conference as well, right?
Yes, I'm saying Carson Beck and Jackson Dart's in there, and Jalen Milroe's in there. I mean, they could have great years too. I mean, but I don't. You know what? I will say I've not researched the kickers of the SEC, but I'm just saying he's got to be one of the better kickers.
He's got to be in the conversation.
Got to be one of the better kickers. Yeah, he's got to be one of the better kickers. If not, then what is it? A kicker dominated SEC? I can't see that, but I will go do the research. So there you go. Bert Arban getting a scholarship. Congrats to him. All right, I promise you some Texas football conversation. We'll do that next time we go behind the burnt orange curtain. But we'll come back. We'll get into the topic for the big fat poll of the day. Also, the musically themed day of the week. All that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back home. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his fantastic team. Last time I went to Dr. U, actually, last time I went there, I fell asleep in the chair. No joke. That's actually a true story. That's how comfortable I was. And that's how comfortable you will be as well. They specialize in easing dental anxiety. So if you have some of that, which I do, and this I did before I started visiting Dr. U, they will take care of. They specialize in easing dental anxiety, but they also specialize in general dentistry. Anything you need: teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy. Even if you have to have all your wisdom teeth removed, which, hey, raising my hand, I had to have that done. And my friends over at Dr. Eckert's office, they were fantastic. They walked me through every step of the process, got everything scheduled, made sure the procedure went without any hitches. It was fantastic. I was back at work within a couple of days, and they'll do the same for you. It doesn't matter if it's something as serious as having all your wisdom teeth removed or something as routine as a cleaning or just a checkup. Dr. Eckert is the place for you. Trust me on that, folks. They can handle any concerns about your dental health or dental hygiene, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Yu and his team are all about. They're always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry. And because of that, they can give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they can complete your permanent smile. You're going to smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. It's a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, don't freak out. Or you already have dentures, don't freak out, because Dr. Yu can take care of you. It's a revolutionary alternative to dentures and a brand new smile in just one day. It sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's just Dr. Yu. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose but everything to gain. And Dr. Yu understands that a confident smile can truly change your life, and he wants to change your life for the better. So what are you waiting for? Give him a call today, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com.
Back on the Rodcast on a Monday, and that means it's a smooth soul Monday, easing you back into the work week with some nice smooth soul. Get you feeling good on your morning commute, or as you're getting ready, or if you work from home, if you're just trying to get in the mood on a Monday and trying to feel a little bit better. That's what Smooth Soul Monday is all about. Try and bring it to you with some little Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, getting you ready on a Monday morning. But let's get to the big fat poll today, which will not be as fun as Smooth Soul Monday, but let's get to it.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today is, you can probably guess what it's going to be, because we asked you a couple weeks ago or a week ago, should David Pierce, what did he need to do to keep his job? Most people said pretty handily that he didn't even matter. He could have lost 4 straight games, and it did not matter. He was going to keep his job. He should keep his job. I did not believe that was true. I think that was wishful thinking by some people, that he was clearly going to win enough games that would not be the problem. So I'm going to ask you guys again, now that we know what the season was, should David Pierce keep his job? Should David Pierce be back as the head baseball coach next season? I think we can all agree that David Pierce should not be back as the pitching coach next season, that somebody else needs to be a pitching coach. I think that would be a much easier poll, but we're asking today on the text line, 512-447-3776. Should David Pierce keep his job? Yes or no? You can throw in some more takes why you think he should or shouldn't. And I know some people still believe that he has got the program in a decent enough place, and a good enough place where, things are building, and maybe if he can figure out a couple more pieces. I see on the text line a couple of people saying he needs to go more into the portal and needs to try and use that world a little bit more, that he doesn't do that enough, that if he just hires the right pitching coach. But the problem is, say this, is he's now had time to do this, and David Pierce has continued to dig his heels in the ground that he is right and he's going to do things his way. So do you think that he's a coach that can change enough and take on the changes that he needs to bring this in? Or are you just hitting your head against the wall until you realize the fact that he doesn't want to hire a pitching coach who's going to challenge him and challenge the ways he thinks it should be done to maybe get the pitching staff better? He does not want to use the transfer portal more because he wants to develop his own talent. He does not want to do these other things. He wants to do things his way, and that should get him to wins, but it hasn't shown that he's gotten them far enough yet. So that's really the question is, do you think he can make the changes that everybody says, well, if he just does that, then he can win? Because we've seen that with other coaches. They have not grown, and I'm not sure David Pierce is growing in the right direction right now. The not hiring a pitching coach was kind of a big red flag at the beginning of the season, and then seeing how the season ends did not necessarily work out the way. So should he keep his job or not?
Yeah, no, it's a difficult conversation because I think a lot of people, there are a lot of external factors that are influencing people's perspective and opinion here. We talked about A&M's one of them, that your rival is elite in this program.
Yeah.
And also embarking on an SEC schedule, and Longhorn baseball, college baseball fans, period, they know what the brand of SEC baseball and how difficult it will be. And if you're struggling you're not struggling in the Big 12, but if you're not dominating the Big 12, how can you expect it to go into the SEC and compete at a higher level? And I think that those are, to me, the two biggest factors that are putting even more pressure and making the seat even hotter for Coach Pierce, in addition to an underwhelming season and underperforming. But I think it's those two things, man. And it could get even worse if the Aggies, win it all. Honestly, even if I think, which is likely, an SEC team wins it all, it'll still put a light amount of pressure. But if the Aggies do it, I think it'll put a ton more pressure on them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the question too, is, depending on how these other teams do, if one of these, a team that has a coach that maybe has an early exit, or a team that, goes to Omaha but gets knocked out early, do you go ahead and make the move then? And you start contacting those coaches before, say, we're not getting rid of David Pierce until we know we have another guy ready to come in and we know we have somebody ready to go. I could believe that could be the case, but I'm curious, because when we asked this question, we'll put it up on X here in a minute too, to get the poll on there was pretty predominantly he should keep his job. And I think at this point, if you look at what he did in the postseason, I think the fresh wound now of losing to A&M in extra innings, to get knocked out 1-4 in postseason play, after kind of feeling really good about that late season. I think the question is, I think maybe people have different eyes on it on a Monday morning than they did last time we asked.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's for Texas baseball fans. I think they've been pretty torn, but you're right. Now it is fresh. We'll see if they have a different mindset about what's going on the state of the Texas baseball program. And it's like I said, it's not in a bad place at all. I remember Texas football was in a bad place at one point. It's not in a bad place. And that's I wouldn't press the panic button, but like I said, I think Longhorn fans are looking at the future and saying, and not optimistic about it. There you go. Yeah. All right, we'll come back. There you go. Topic for the big fat poll today. Texas baseball fans want to know, how secure is the job status for one coach, David Pierce. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll talk about CJ Stroud's top 5. He reveals his top 5 quarterbacks from the 2023 season. Also, good news about Dak Prescott's contract negotiations with the Cowboys. We'll talk about the NFL's new kickoff rule that has special teams coaches looking at very unorthodox methods. And also, we learned that the Bears are doing Hard Knocks, but now there are multiple teams doing Hard Knocks. It's confusing. We'll clear it up for you on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a smooth so Monday. My co-host Patrick Davis, the Idealionaire, coming up with the musically themed days of the week. And a smooth so Monday is meant to make the transition from the weekend to the work week just a little smoother for you. It can be pretty hectic going from the relaxing, fun times of the weekend to the stress-filled work week. So my man Patrick wants to make that transition as smooth as possible for you. That's the purpose of a Smooth Soul Monday. So we appreciate him and all of his efforts. We'll get to Rod's rant of the day coming up here a little bit later on. We'll talk about the new special teams, really the new XFL, NFL hybrid kickoff return rule, and special teams coaches in the NFL now who are at least proposing some very unorthodox methods. to try to maximize their advantages and mitigate some of the issues that may arise from the new hybrid kickoff return rules. So we'll talk about that a little bit in Rod's rant. We'll also get to CJ Stroud and Dak Prescott conversation. We have sound about Dak Prescott, but sound from CJ Stroud talking about Dak Prescott. We'll get to that too coming up. And of course, we'll get to the Horn headlines here in just a second as well. Appreciate the Bill Withers shout out there, though, man. We don't get enough Bill Withers in our life. Guy was highly underrated. Great songs. Lovely Day. Use Me. What's another great?
Grandma's Hands.
Yes. Oh, man.
Lean on Me.
Yeah, Lean on Me is another one. I mean, he just had a bunch of them that I don't know. We don't give him enough props. I don't know why Bill Withers doesn't get enough props.
I don't know. I think
he never comes up in conversation.
I think he's one of those guys that falls into he wasn't necessarily in the music video era.
Yeah.
And so there's all these artists. If you were just like a radio artist and not a music video artist, then you sometimes fall into a different category. And he wasn't necessarily like on all the award shows and stuff. Like Stevie Wonder transitioned into being a pop icon kind of guy. Like he was on a bunch of stuff. Where Bill Withers was just kind of doing it. So like if Bill Withers walked in the room, could you pick him out of a lineup?
Most people couldn't.
And that's different. So if you can't picture them, I think they just don't get. It's harder to put them in that realm.
No, nobody can picture Bill. I can because I know, but most people cannot. Everybody knows his songs, but most people can. They don't know how the person looks. He's not iconic from that aspect. So you're right about that. Maybe that's it. But man, in terms of Ain't No Sunshine, Lean on Me, Lovely Day, Just the Two of Us. You just played. I mean, Use Me. He's got a bunch of them, just bangers. So anyway. There you go. Random Bill Withers shout out. Don't get enough love. He's one of them. All right. Let's give my man Patrick some love. He don't get enough love either, but he's fine with it. Let's get informed, educated, and let's get updated on all the top stories of the day with the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball had no problem taking care of Florida 10-0 in 5 innings on Saturday to advance in the Women's College World Series. A very dominant performance by Mac Morgan, who only allowed 1 hit in the game. The Longhorns will now face Stanford once again in a matchup where Texas has 2 chances to win 1 game to advance to the finals, where they will play the winner of Florida and Oklahoma. Texas baseball dropped 2 games in their regional this weekend, ending the Longhorns season in a disappointing fashion. A heartbreaking 11-inning loss to Texas A&M on Saturday could lead the way to a return matchup with Louisiana on Sunday, where Texas could not get going, losing 10-2 and finishing their season earlier than expected. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their series to the Twins over the weekend, with Ryan Presley giving up the go-ahead run on Sunday in the 8th inning. The Astros now move on to a series with the Cardinals, where Verlander taking the mound for the Astros tonight. And the Rangers took care of the Marlins 2-1, with Corey Seager extending his hitting streak to 15 games over the weekend and pulls the Rangers back to just 1 game under 500 on the season. They will now take on the Tigers this week. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. All right, I got a couple of topics that I want to get to. Let's start. Patrick, do we have the NFL on ESPN audio here about Dak Prescott? I believe it's Jeremy Fowler, who is the NFL insider here. Yeah, Jeremy Fowler's the NFL insider here, who is speaking about Dak Prescott's contract status and negotiations with the Cowboys. This is good news for Cowboys fans. This is actually kind of the first positive sign I've heard about potential contracts negotiations between Dak and the Cowboys. Here is Jeremy Fowler on ESPN.
But they are all in on re-signing Dak Prescott. Eventually, they just haven't shown it yet. But I'm told behind the scenes they've made clear they don't want him to hit free agency in 2025. They want him to be the quarterback of the future. But their negotiation so far has been described to me as passive. So sometime this summer, they're going to have to ramp up the heat a little bit, come with a strong offer, and get the ball going. But they made clear they're going to do that. They're just slow playing it a little bit. And you have some other quarterback comps. A little bit, yeah. They have some quarterback comps coming in. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville will probably get done at some point. Tua in Miami. Yeah. Maybe they're sort of setting the stage for themselves. And meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb, he can just sit back and watch and see what happens, and he'll get paid eventually.
All right, there you go. See, that's some positivity. They're all in, even though the beginning of it, they're all in, even though they won't act like it or they haven't said it.
No, they're all in. Mentally, they're all in. But this is it falls back to what. But
this is good though.
This is what the Cowboys always do. They want to want to have their cake and eat it too, which I get is a stupid saying anyway, because who doesn't want cake and then to eat it Just like I'll have my cake and I'll look at it. Nobody, so it's a dumb saying anyway. But
it is a dumb saying.
But this is what the Cowboys want, because they want to be able to say, well, what we'd like to be able to take zero risk on ourselves of re-signing these guys and maybe giving a bad contract. We also want them to give us a team-friendly deal. Also, we want to wait till last minute. So we want them to basically have to bow down to us and give us, because we're the Cowboys, we want to give a better deal. And why? I mean, I get that it's Texas. You don't pay a state income tax. I get that the Cowboys will give you more marketing opportunities in other places. I get that you have a chance to win games in Dallas. But if you're going to be treated as if, look, the day you don't produce, you are out the door, and we do not, like, we're getting rid of you the second you can. Like, if Dak Prescott gets hurt this season, see you later. We don't care. We're not going to guarantee any money. Then I get why you might say, well, that's not best for me and my family to be in a place where they refuse to try and make the deal, and then they're putting themselves in a bad position that every time someone else signs a new contract, every time you wait, CeeDee Lamb has made an extra $4 to $5 million a year in the past 2 weeks.
Seriously, he's loving his life right now.
And so it's all these things. I get you can say you're all in and you want to do this, but it's just still not the right business move to do if you really want to keep him. It feels like they say, well, we want to keep him, but we want to keep him the same way we're just talking about Texas baseball. We want to keep him if he produces. Exactly. If he wins a Super Bowl, of course we want to keep him. So we say we want to keep him because we expect him to do really well in the playoffs this year, and then we'll want to keep him. But we're not going to sign him until he does, because we don't really want to if he doesn't do it. So unless they do the signing during, and while they're at camp and while they're if it doesn't get done before week 1, it does not feel like it's going to get done before the season, right?
Yeah, no, it was I think it was RJ Ochoa, the Blogging the Boys editor, who said if they come back from Oxnard and it's not done, that's when that's when I think people should start freaking out. That's when he'd freak out.
Yeah,
he said, because that would mean that's one of those windows where usually when there's a contract issue with the Cowboys, he said that's when they get it done. They usually get it done before then. And if it's after that, he's going to start believing that Dak's actually going to play out the last year of his deal and become a free agent in 2025, which would be, like I said, we really haven't seen it play out like this for a franchise quarterback. But these are uncertain times as it relates to the Dallas Cowboys. And I keep hearing Trey Lance is looking better. I'm not saying that Trey Lance is going to be the future, but don't you keep hearing the Trey Lance reports?
I do, but Rod,
man,
you know the same thing as I do. Everybody looks good this time of year.
It's true. Everybody looks good this time.
Have you heard one report of somebody not looking good from any team?
Yes, actually, I have.
You did?
Yeah, that was report. Yeah, there's some reports already about rookies who haven't looked good and like rookie OTAs and stuff like that.
No, I'll say anybody who was on a team like Dameon Pierce. Man, I can't wait. You should see what Dameon Pierce looks like in scrimmage.
Yeah,
and you're like, because you might want to trade him. And so you're going to say,
that is the case. Yes,
anybody who might be tradable looks amazing right now.
Now, there you go. That is the truth. Yes, everybody who can be traded, they do look amazing. That's a great point. You're right about that. All right, so the Cowboys, that's some optimism around Dak Prescott. Here's some more optimism around Dak Prescott. So CJ Stroud, I'm saying this guy's definitely going to be in media when he gets done. It's pretty obvious he's going to be in media when he gets done, right? He won the, remember I told you the Pro Football Writers Association Good Guy Award because they love them. He has the Micah Parsons Odd Couple podcast simulcast they do with Bleacher Report, which actually is really entertaining. They just take shots at each other.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty funny. They got a good chemistry. And so he's doing another podcast. This one, I think, Million Worth of Game is the title of it. I could be off about that. It may sound old saying that, so I apologize. But they were asking CJ Stroud about his top 5. He's with Tank Dell.
Yes.
Yeah, him and Tank Dell like hanging out here on the couch with these two other guys who do the podcast. And they asked him his top 5 quarterbacks based on last season. And here's how the conversation went down.
Oh, no, I'm tripping. Let me go. I'm going.
Tripping?
So, look, final 5. I know what I'm doing, dog. Mahomes, Lamar, myself, Dak.
Joey B.
No, he didn't really play last year. And then Hurts.
Dak, that boy. Y'all not gonna say that because he ain't won the big one.
You said Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, Matthew, Cowboys thing.
Cowboys thing.
Bro, you gonna put Dak Prescott in there over Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I got.
I'm saying off of last year, dog. He ain't play all year. He got hurt.
Well, we can
Burrow,
find somebody.
Burrow, one of my favorite players. I'm out of my game after Burrow a little bit. Like,
Why
me
you
and Burrow got
Cowboys. Oh,
Bro,
Eagles and
that is that
Cowboys,
dude,
they
bro.
don't like each
What?
other like that. I ain't know all that.
What?
I ain't see. I don't be knowing all that.
Dak tough, bro.
I'm
Dak
just-
is one of the most accurate quarterbacks.
Y'all gotta
in
see them
in
this
the
year,
world.
don't you?
Yeah, we play.
Oh my God, the battle of
Sunday.
Texas.
You gonna take care
Monday
of that for
night
me? Yeah, take
Where y'all
care of
playing
that
at?
for me, man.
in Dallas.
Okay, so first of all, he cuts for Dak. He never backed down off the Dak thing. He never backed down off the Dak thing. He never did. He kept saying, "No, man, Dak, that dude. Dak's the real deal. Dak's legit." And okay, on Instagram, this is how seriously CJ Stroud. I love him because he's so passionate about his sports takes. Like his sports takes, like he wants to make sure he's on the record for a sports take that it's an informed sports take and he gets it right. See, even though he's like, hold on, let me make sure a little bit get it right. They're like, he's not just throwing out names out there, right? Because even though he went on Instagram after that podcast to clarify, he said top 5 off of last year. This is from his Instagram right after that podcast went viral, or at least the clip went viral. And he said, number 1, Pat. Number 2, Lamar. Number 3, myself. Number 4, Josh Allen. And number 5, Dak. So he bumped Dak and then put Josh Allen and then bumped Jalen Hurts completely out of the list. Remember, it was Jalen Hurts on the list. He just put Jalen Hurts out of the list on his clarified top 5 off of last year. So it's him, it's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, himself. I love that he put himself in there.
There you go.
I love it. I love that he put himself in there.
to.
Yeah, man. You ball downhill. What do you think yourself as a quarterback? I know you want to be the best, so at least put yourself in the conversation. And then you put Josh Allen, and then there's Dak Prescott. So 2 things. Remember, I told you guys that he is in the MVP conversation, and I love the way you put it, Pat. He's got a chance to win it late in the season.
Yeah.
Because he'll play all these guys. But I'm telling you, if you're a betting man or woman, whatever, all right, if you're betting, not a bad bet looking at CJ Stroud and the MVP. I haven't looked at it lately, so you can go look at it right now, but I believe his MVP odds only are third. I believe they were the 3rd best odds last time I looked at it. And I think Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen were the only ones that had better odds than him.
Yeah.
And I want to say he was tied with Lamar Jackson and tied with Joe Burrow, if I'm not mistaken. I'll get that information, but yeah, I'm glad he did. I'm glad he put himself in the top 5. We'll see this year I think he was in the conversation to be a top 10 quarterback. Him being a top 5 quarterback this year, he's got a lot of weapons. That'd be a huge leap if he ended up being a top 5 QB this year.
Yeah,
but it's definitely in him.
And I mean, because they were writing that clip too. It's like you're not putting Joe Burrow. Like, he didn't play he was hurt last year.
Yeah. No,
so
I'm
you
glad
said you had Joe Burrow
he's
back in that discussion again this year. That that's another quarterback that's going to be in that top rung of quarterbacks.
No doubt.
So yeah, you to be top 5 in the NFL right now, when you can say, I mean, just the AFC being top 5 in the AFC, top 5 in the NFC, much easier to do. Top 5 in the AFC, pretty difficult.
It's really difficult, actually. Yeah, you're right about that. It's because the best NFC quarterback is Dak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why when he said Dak, and then the guy was like so surprised. I'm like, well, Dak was an all-pro last year.
He was, again, second MVP
voting last year. And it's like, well, I know you may be a Dak hater, but you can be a Dak hater all you. And I think the Dak hatred, man, is so deep. And it's weird, man, because for Cowboys haters, they don't like Dak. And like I said, half of Cowboys fans don't like Dak. That's the just thing about Dak. It's that half the actual fans of the Cowboys don't like Dak. They're also Dak haters. And it may, you know what? It may just be the recent thing for the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe just say recent thing for Cowboys, because Romo went through the same thing. And I was a Romo sexual, and I remember they had so many Romophobes. It was pretty split between how many Cowboys fans loved and supported Romo, and how many Cowboys fans thought, man, they need to find another quarterback, and Romo ain't it. And to me, it goes back to like there's a great Chris Rock skit that he does when he's talking about relationships, and he's talking about why your wife is so miserable. If your wife is miserable and makes you miserable by criticizing you all the time and yelling at you all the time, and she's always on you, he's like, there's one reason. And his theory is the reason is because you wasn't her first choice.
Yes.
And she's always taking that out on you. Like, man, you was not my first. I settled for you. I settled for you, and I could have done better, and I should have done better. And then she's always thinking about that dude, where he is, and that she could be on vacation on some tropical island with, even though that dude's probably he's probably a D-bag and a-hole too, you know what I mean, and not a great partner, but it's all about her fantasy at the time. This is Chris Rock's, this is not me, this is Chris Rock's theory. I want to make this sure women are like, what, you believe it's Chris Rock's theory? And my theory linking that to Cowboys fans is that's Cowboys fans. Cowboys fans always believed about Dak and about Romo, they settled. That because one was a 4th round pick and one was an undrafted free agent. So almost like that woman that's always critical of a man because he wasn't her first choice.
Yeah,
that's how Cowboys fans feel about Dak, and they feel about Tony Romo, because their first choice would have been, let's draft a quarter. And the Cowboys they don't draft quarterbacks like that high, right? We talked about that. They don't draft quarterbacks really at all. They're just starting to. And Cowboys fans feel like we deserve more at quarterback. It was Dak was he was a 4th round pick. That was a 3rd string quarterback behind Fragile Tony Romo and Kellen Moore. And Dak, those were their quarterbacks.
Yes.
An undrafted free agent, a 4th round pick, and what was Kellen Moore? I don't know. Was he even drafted? Was he undrafted?
We don't know.
Yeah, the Cowboys have always been they've been the luckiest team in the NFL when it comes to quarterback. But Cowboys fans always feel like they deserve, like they want a elite prospect at quarterback. They want one of those guys drafted high. It's like the prince that was promised, right?
Yeah.
The Texans have had that. They've had a Deshaun Watson and a CJ Stroud. And the Cowboys fans, I think they've been a little envious. I want the prince that was promised, the great one. Give me that elite prospect. And they don't. They almost kind of stumble and Forrest Gump their way into a quarterback. And it's like, here's your franchise quarterback. You're like, hold up, what? That's my franchise quarterback? How do you become the franchise quarterback? It's like, hey, it's Tony Romo. And even Tony Romo was great. I love Tony Romo. But how many undrafted free agents become franchise quarterbacks in NFL history? How many? Kurt Warner, Tony Romo, maybe Warren Moon. Think about the circumstances of those quarterbacks. So I think ultimately that's why Cowboys fans psychologically, half of them hate their franchise quarterback. Just the reason that a lot of women hate the man that they with, because he was not her first choice. And Dak is not Cowboys fans' first choice. Neither was Romo. But they're great. They're really good quarterbacks. But but they also can't win the big one too. And that is, I think, ultimately, they could win over some of those Cowboys fans, and they never will, because they don't win the big one.
No, and I mean, if you it's the weird part of, if you just look at historically Troy Aikman, of where he ranked in quarterbacks that were around at the time, of how many Pro Bowls and all, like how many accolades he had.
Yeah,
he really wasn't super decorated.
No,
but he won.
Yep.
And so he's one of the greatest Cowboys quarterbacks of all time because he won. Yep. And so, and I'm not saying he wasn't a great quarterback, but if you just look at it, I think he's one of those guys that if you look at what his career accolades are, you go, that seems like half it, like at maximum, that's half of what he did.
Yep.
And so it's just a weird thing of looking back. If you weren't there at the time, if you weren't paying attention, then you'd look back and go, well, Troy was he was an okay quarterback, but Romo was more decorated. And Dak's second MVP voting. Dak has it. And he's like, no, but Troy's the better one.
You're right, because Troy Aikman, I don't think he ever finished second MVP voting, did he?
No, I don't.
No way.
I
haven't got to go look, but there's no way. It'd have been him that finished back in that day, right? Well, I would say different era of football too, but you're right. But you're so right about that. And I think that ultimately, like I said, that there are different reasons why, but man, it's amazing. The last two Cowboys quarterbacks, they've kind of dealt with the same situation where the fan base is pretty split on whether they support them, either at both of those guys at QB. All right, we're gonna push the rant to next segment so we can stay on time here. So we'll push the rant to next segment. Actually, I got a dual rant here. I got a personal rant that I want to get into, and I got an NFL related rant. I got a personal rant that I want to get into. So we'll see which one we have. We've got time for both. I want to do a personal rant, then I want to do a rant also about the new kickoff return rule in the NFL and special teams coach. We got some audio of them throwing out some very unorthodox ideas about how they're going to approach this new kickoff rule. And it might be really fun. I just this is what the NFL wanted. They wanted this to really, kind of increase some of the creativity in the game. They wanted this new rule change to really generate some, like I said, new creative methods and some new schematic methods, and for teams to try to gain advantage. And I think we're already at least starting to hear some special teams coaches thinking outside the box in regards to new return rules. So we'll get to that coming up in Rod's rant on the other side. Also, my personal rant. We'll do both right here on Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for Rod's rant today. All right, so we got a couple of cuts here from a couple of special teams coaches. One is the chief special teams coach, special teams coordinator Dave Taub, I believe is his name. I could be mispronouncing it. If I do, I apologize. And he's talking about Harrison Butker and not talking about Harrison Butker for the reason most people are these days. But he's talking about Harrison Butker as an actual kicker on the field and why, because of the new kickoff rule, they may decide to go with another kicker, another player actually, other than Harrison Butker. Here is a special teams coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs giving his full answer as to why they may be thinking about something outside the box in regards to kickoff coverage with the new NFL kickoff rule.
I like to have somebody that can go back, is able to make a tackle. I mean, Butker's able to make a tackle, but I really don't want him making tackles all year long. If you watch the XFL, we watched every play. I bet kickers were involved in probably at least 25 to 40% of the tackles. Either trying to make a guy bounce back or making the tackle itself or just missing the tackle. So, we don't want Butker in that situation, but he will be a kicker. He'll be a guy that we will use in certain situations. He's got a lot of ability to move the ball, whereas those other guys may not be as, apt to doing that. And, we'll use him. He can still kick a touchback if we need it. You're just giving up the ball. If we do kick a touchback out of the back of the end zone, now they're getting out to 30 instead of the 25. So that 5 yards makes a big difference. I mean, that's another 3% chance that, you're giving the offense against you to score. So
what's the early evaluation on guys like Justin Reed?
Well, Justin can cover. I mean, he can kick, which he can do, and then he can go down there and make tackles. He's an extra guy that they're probably not accounting for. They know that guy can go down and tackle, but a guy like Justin is a guy that they have to worry about. You have to get him blocked, and they have to give up blocking somebody else. So, that's the whole thought of that.
Is it something about different kicking styles that might help you out as you're doing this?
It's really, hang time doesn't matter at all now. So hang time is out the door. mean, you could do it, but it's not, doesn't mean anything. But, so now it's about accuracy, seeing what you're getting, how the returners are lined up, and then trying to kick away from them in the corners. But you can't take too much of a risk, because if you hit it out of bounds, now you're giving the ball up at the 40. If you hit it short of the target zone, you're giving the ball to the 40. So, I mean, there's a fine line between, pushing the limits, the edges, and then, or just going down and saying, hey, we can cover it. We're going to, give them a ball that they can cover, and then go down there with a kicker that can cover. So,
is there any benefit to touchbacks now at all?
Yeah, there's benefit. I mean, if you're trying to get out of a game, you're up. You don't want to give up a possibility of a turnover, or a big return against you. You just bang it out the bat. You just say, hey, we're going to give up the 5 yards and give them the ball at the 30, which Bucker can do. I mean, obviously, he can do.
All right, there you go. So it goes on, but he gave you some a nice meat there about the new thought process. Hang time doesn't matter, because the guys are close enough to the action where it's all about them being able to identify what's in front of them, because nobody can move until the ball is caught. Where only the kicker and the returner can move, but nobody else can move until the ball is actually caught. And man, it is so punitive, right? Touchbacks come out to the 30, but if you kick it too far out of bounds, then it comes out to the 40. So he's the way that he's describing it. And he did mention that Justin Reed, their safety, who he believes can kick, is now an option for them as a kicker, because since they don't need hang time and they expect to return anyway, and they just got to worry about coverage, that as long as he can put it within the return zone, which, it's pretty easy if you just kind of got some basic skill to kick it, they might have him actually kicking instead of Butker. The kicker, though, is in a different place than the XFL kicker is in, than the XFL kicker was in. He'll be in a different place, but still, they're thinking about just adding another coverage defender rather than because they know, listen, it's just going to be tougher to cover kicks, period.
Yeah.
These new rules are designed to promote returns, and there's no doubt teams are going to start putting more dynamic athletes back to return these kicks, and the process itself, and even the setup itself, it will facilitate more returns and more dynamic players in those situations. You'll get more explosive returns. So they know it's going to happen, and they know having a kicker out there in these situations is not going to help them. So if you have a player that can, and this may open up a whole nother genre of player on the roster potentially, that if this indeed does become something that becomes really impactful in games, say we see a huge spike in kickoff return yardage and kickoff return touchdowns, which they're expecting and hope. If you see that, then maybe you'll get players who, I don't know, maybe on some that do this at the D3 level, they'll start looking for punt, pass, kick coverage specialists.
Yeah.
Basically guys who can do everything, guys who can kick and then go down and cover the kick, and essentially do everything on special teams. You could have players like Justin Reed can do that. You might have a roster spot for guys that can be this type of kickoff coverage specialist.
Yeah.
Kicker kickoff coverage specialist.
That's what's the player for the Texans last year who had to come in and kick?
Yes.
Dare Ungulabale.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes, you're right about that.
So but he was the one that when we were talking about this, when you start to see the coaches talk about it, you're like, that's the type of player that they're like, well, he's got a leg and he can do it. And especially if you spend an off season training him now, and getting him, put him in the right yoga classes or whatever else to make sure his legs are limber enough to be able to kick him up. And to go, seriously. And then we can still use him as a fullback, running back. We can use him in both parts of the game, but he has this skill set, and so someone that maybe is on the fringe of the roster, especially as the team is getting better, may keep a roster spot in the fact of, well, depending on what we want to do, we may want him in coverage because it depends. And if they have a really good kick returner, we may not do it every week, but we may do it some weeks when they have better returners, and we may depending on what they do. If they run two back on us, we're probably going to switch things up.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great point. You ain't got to do it every week, but for that team that has that elite returner, you might want to think about it, because that could be the difference between a win and a loss. that type of big play on special teams. So it's interesting. And we have another cut here. This is from the Browns special teams coach. Bubba Ventrone, said that he's talking about them talking to secondary coaches about working with kickers on tackling drills so that their basically trying to make sure their kickers are better on coverage because they're expecting a boom in return production. Here is the Cleveland Browns special teams coordinator.
Could this new kickoff rule expose kickers to maybe having to do more of that?
I think you're
kind of there by themselves back there.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to, I would say, spend more time with the kickers on, true like tackling technique. And we've actually talked to the defensive secondary coaches about getting with our guys on some of the drills that they do. So, yeah, I think that you're going to have to anticipate that those guys are going to have to make a few more tackles.
There you go. I mean, so they're expecting a boom in kickoff return yards, and some coaches are thinking outside the box. Got the kickers working now with secondary coaches on tackling drills. Got members of the secondary like Justin Reed potentially, who's going to be engaging in kickoffs and coverage at the same time. I mean, it's one of those things I think is really going to kind of have shockwaves all throughout the NFL. We'll see what teams handle it best. All right, so that is and the last time that, and I saw this from Sharp Football, here are the last times each NFL team had a kickoff return for a touchdown. The Texans, the Broncos, and the Patriots had a kickoff return for a touchdown last season. The Buffalo Bills, Green Bay, Baltimore, Atlanta, they had one in 2022. Washington, Seattle, Jacksonville, Dallas, the Jets, and the Chargers last time was 2021. The Colts, the Chiefs, the Bears, and the Titans last time was 2020. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Detroit Lions last time was 2019. 2018, the last time Miami and San Fran returned a kickoff return for a touchdown. For the New Orleans Saints, Rams, Steelers, and Panthers, it was 2017. For the Eagles, the last time they returned a kickoff return for a touchdown, it was 2016. Arizona and the Arizona Cardinals and the New York Giants last time was 2015. And then you got to go all the way back to 2011. Last time the Las Vegas Raiders returned a kickoff return for a touchdown. 2010, the last time Tampa Bay did it. And 2009 was the last time the Cleveland Browns had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So the belief is that you're going to see a huge spike in kickoff returns for touchdowns coming up this season. We shall see. All right, so we'll get back to some more NFL discussion because I also want to get to Cowboys are experimenting a little bit with Deuce Vaughn. We haven't talked about that, but there is talk in OTAs that they got him working at multiple positions, and I think it actually may be a good idea what the Cowboys are doing. So we'll get into that too coming up a little bit later on the show. Here's my my personal rant of the day though before we get to what the facts, what the stats. So last week, this was at night last week, and I was outside letting the dogs out in the front of my house. I'm just looking up at the sky, and I see an unidentified flying object of some kind.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I'm not crazy. I run inside, sprint inside to go get my wife. Sprint inside. She's like, what? Oh, you being noisy. You don't wake the baby. I'm like, get your out here. There is stuff happening out here that I don't want to witness on my own. Yeah. I need another witness so I know I'm not going crazy. And I bring her out, and it's still there. Like it still can be observed in the sky. And what it looks like is just a line of lights. I would say maybe 8 or 9. And it just moved in a way that, unlike I haven't seen anything like that before. And it disappeared too. Like out of nowhere. Like it went away. I know it. And it was around long enough for me to observe it, go inside, get wifey. I probably should have put my phone out and did it, but I'm just not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I went inside and got her. She saw it. And she saw it and acknowledged it. And that's not what's freaking. What the fact that we saw a UFO is not freaking me out. All right, I know there are things out there that we can.
Well, it's not a UFO. It's
in our government. It's a UAE or whatever.
Okay,
I know. Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Okay,
UAP, I think it is. Right?
Okay, gotcha.
UAP. Yeah, I know it's not UFO. It's UAP, whatever. But I'm old school, right? I
Yeah,
still call it Twitter, even though it's X. All right. His mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay. All right. But so that's listen. I know there's something about that. We're not gonna talk about that. I get that. Because now the government, our own government, has acknowledged they don't even know what's happening with a lot of UAP stuff like that. My wife, who saw it, says she doesn't really want to ponder it. Like, she doesn't want to ponder it too much. Like, I want to discuss it. I'm like, hey, can we talk about what we saw and what's going on and how? And she doesn't really want to contemplate it. I want to contemplate it. You know what I mean? I want to ponder, talk about, man, what they could have been. She's like, no. I don't want to get into that, basically. She's like, nope. It's too. She acknowledges that it happened.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that she witnessed it. She acknowledges that. She's like, no, I'm not trying to have a deep conversation about it. I'm like, how can you witness something you've never seen before that you can't explain and not want to get into a deep either conversation about it or ponder it? And maybe she is not talking to me, but she doesn't want to. I get every day. I still been thinking about it from the day I saw it to now. I've been thinking about it every damn day. Every day I think about it. I'm like, that was weird. What the hell was that? Like every day. I wish I'd had it on my phone. I could have sent it to you. Every day I think about it. And the person I brought out to witness it to, she's like, yeah, it happened. And it's like I said, it bothers me more that she saw it and then it's not a big deal to her. She's like, no, it's not a big deal. I don't care. I'm like, that's a huge deal. To me, it's huge. I'm like, that's why I brought you out. Otherwise, I wouldn't even brought you out if you didn't think it was a big deal. But she's like, oh no, I acknowledge that it was a UFO, something I haven't seen before that I cannot explain. But it's not a big deal. Basically, doesn't move the meter for me. I'm good. I'm like, what? I'm married I don't even know this woman I married. It's weird. I expect the woman I married to be also, I don't know, deeply captivated by this. And she is not at all. She's like, no, I'm good. I can't stop thinking about it. I don't think I've ever witnessed a UFO, a UAP like that, whatever. I haven't witnessed one. I know they exist, and people close to me have told me, "Oh man, I saw this and I saw that." I have never personally seen one. I saw one last week, and it freaked me out. It's like I was like, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm a rational person, you know what I mean? You know this. I look for data and patterns and trends. That I ain't never seen anything like that.
And that's look, I'll be on because I'm on. I'm on the side of if I see stuff like that, I'm like, I assume there's a rational explanation. That I assume there is. And I assume there is. So it doesn't bother me as much to go, look, there's two ways this happens. There's two things that are true in this. Either one, there's a rational explanation that I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to spend pulling my hair out trying to figure out was it this type of thing that the government does or whatever. So I'm not going to pull my hair out for that. Or I'll probably give it a cursory Google search. And that'll be the end of my research. And then if it is something else, you're like, well, I can't control that anyway. So it doesn't matter because I can't control it. So it is what it is. But I'm not going to
a lot of stuff, but you still ponder and talk about it and discuss it. You can't control most of your life. You can't control it.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is if it's something that's going to cause me to be upset and at unease, then I'm like, well, I'm just not going to think because I can't do it. Like, so I can go. It basically it's like if me talking about things that if I have no idea about it whatsoever, because that's the thing where you go like it could have been something that is super common that I've just never seen, all the way to something that was it could be that we're being invaded and by Wednesday we'll be slaves to the alien overlords. It could be either one. They're both rational. So I get but there's absolutely no evidence of either one.
You're right, which is why I want to ponder and discuss and contemplate. And that's exactly because the spectrum is so wide. Let's have a conversation about it. And she's like, no, I'm good. I'd rather worry about the day-to-day stuff and talk about that rather than devote brain power and brain
so you say isn't that crazy what we saw? And she goes, yeah, what's for dinner?
Pretty much, yeah. Like she does not want to. It just doesn't really move the needle for her. She is not interested at all. She's like I said, she acknowledges that it happened, but no interest. So I got to go find somebody else who's interested in talking about.
Who's seen it?
The UAP, yeah.
You have to dig
I'm
into.
gonna call my brother. I'm gonna call my brother today, and I think he would be into it.
You have to
but
get
she's
on.
not.
You have to get on Reddit. Go down that. Reddit.
I need like I need like a group that I can talk to about it because I'm like, man, that was amazing. I'm still thinking about it. Nope. And like I said, we witnessed it. It was like 30 seconds. It was like at least 20 to 30 seconds that it could be observed. And like I said, nothing. I get nothing from her with it. She is unimpressed by seeing something she's never seen before and can't explain. And like I said, there could be a rational explanation. But like I said, I am 40. I'm 43. I've never seen anything like that. I've seen a lot of stuff in my life. I've never seen anything like that, dude. I've stared up at the sky for a long time and looked at a lot of stuff. I've never seen anything like that or moved like that. There's nothing that is known to the public.
Yeah.
That moves and looks like that.
All right.
I'm gonna tell you that right now. There's nothing now. It could be something that the government's got behind the scenes or something else that we just don't. That's not known to the public. There's nothing known to the public that moves like that.
No, it wasn't a weather balloon.
Hell no. Nope.
It's old standard.
It was wild. And like I said, your boys on here. I'm a research guy. You guys know that. I did research on it. It was weird, and it was just weird. I don't know.
No, I get it. Yeah, if I saw that, it would probably be something where if I didn't have it recorded, then I'd just be like, I saw a thing. It was kind of weird.
I should have recorded. Now I'm upset with myself for not pulling out my damn phone. Now I'm upset because I'm like, I didn't just pull out my damn phone.
Because
at least I could go back.
Well, yeah, and then you can show it to other people, and then you can find other people who'd be interested.
Yes, but I trusted my wife to also be as enthusiastic about it as I was, and she is not. She's
can you go to like a police sketch artist and get it like drawn out for you?
No, I didn't. Okay, you know what? No, we're not even because the UAP is not the rant to me. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that my wife,
yes,
I thought would be more interested in this, and she is not. She is she could care less about seeing this, and like you, she basically she observed it and she experienced it and she was done with it.
So
like in that moment, she was done with it, and I'm like damn near a week later, and I'm like, hey,
this is why
I
say
about this thing that we saw. She's like,
this is what I'll say is why, baby, is because I know I've had conversations with people about ghost stuff. That someone will try and show me something or tell me a story about something they experienced, and they'll say it in a way of like, doesn't this prove that ghosts are real? I'm like, nah. Like, I don't care. It's like, no, I don't think there's a logical explanation for it, and I don't believe in that.
Patrick, what if I brought you in the room with the ghost, and then we both saw the ghost? No, that's what I'd be like. Then can we talk about? That's why I brought her. That's why I went and got her. But no, otherwise, I just observed myself and pulled out my phone. I went and got her, so I said we could both.
If we saw a shadow go past, we'd be like, what was that shadow? I'd be like, I don't know, probably something in the sky that blew past the shadow. Why did the door slam shut? Now wind. I don't.
Yeah. But if you can see, but she but you acknowledged that a ghost was there. She acknowledged it. That is something I haven't seen. That is a UAP. Haven't seen it. And then it's like, all right, I'm done with it. You get my point. What you're talking about is somebody trying to prove to you that something happened. And I didn't do that. I grabbed her so she could also experience it. So that way we experience it. So I wouldn't have to go one day, hey, babe, look what I saw outside. I saw something freaky and describe it to her. No, didn't have to do that. Didn't even have to video it. I didn't want to have to video it. I didn't want to show her a video of it because the video sometimes doesn't translate or transfer. I want you. I grabbed you out of the house so you can look at it myself and win. And I remember asking her at the time, I said, babe, have you ever seen anything like this? She's like, no. I was like, what is it? She's like, I have no idea what that is. She's like, that's scary. And she walked in the house and never ever would talk about it again. Like, are you working for the government? What is happening?
Was your wife abducted? And
now exactly. That's what I'm like. What is happening? What happens to the woman? The intellectual curiosity of the woman I married. We observed this together, and then now you don't want to talk about it at all. What is happening? I'm sorry, I can't get over it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the woman I married. I love her, but I don't know what happened. I'm like, after that, I was like, we're gonna have a lot of discussion about this. It's gonna be amazing. Like 5 days later, 6 days later, we have not. Nope.
No,
we barely discussed it. No, every time I bring it up, she talks about it and then change the subject. It is not impressed. Like it didn't impress her. It like has now changed my life. And she doesn't care. She's like,
what do you think? What do you think would take? What do you think? Like,
it's wild.
She'd have to actually see like a spaceship.
I think she needs to see, like the beam of light or something. I don't know. Like to me, it's just enough for me, it's enough to not be able to explain it to make it worthy of pondering, discussion, to contemplate. Just because I can't explain, like, because I'm all about how can I explain this? Can I break it down? Is there a rational trend or pattern or something? And I can't explain it, and no, she don't care. It doesn't, like, mystery. So to me, mysteries, like, they stick with me. They stay with me. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff that people can't solve or people can't figure it out. Those mysteries, like, I ponder those. Like, man, that's interesting.
I'll send you some of the stuff of what our text line is saying. I could get you some.
No, I was
they've got some.
They got some theories too.
They got some theories for you.
What about my wife though? Why is it the theories about my wife? I'm like, why is she interested in this? I was like, I gotta go find a group. I gotta go a group chat or something. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Oh, no, thank you guys for all your participation on the text line and trying to help me explain what I saw. But for me, the issue is not necessarily the UAP or whatever we saw or whatever. To me, now it's more about my wife and her lack of intellectual curiosity and her lack of interest in what interests me. Now we have a deeper issue that I'm trying to solve here. I'm like, well, I was really interested in it. So like, even if we saw what's going on in the sky, and it's some of you guys said it might be Elon Musk and the satellite stuff, and it could easily be that. It could be that. So I'm not saying, like I said, I wasn't going to jump to that was aliens or anything. I just said, hey, unexplained. Whoa, can we talk about this? And like I said, my wife, not interested. Maybe we could have solved the mystery together, but she had no interest. That is now my issue, is that my life partner, she had, like I said, something that I thought was a big deal. She thought she didn't care at all. She didn't care at all. So I appreciate you guys hitting us up about the UAP or whatever it was that I might have saw. Okay, let's get to what we definitely saw. Actually, we just don't know what it was. All right, let's get to what the facts, what the stats here. How about this, Patrick? Only 14 NBA franchises have won the 45 championship since 1980.
Yeah, I can believe that.
But haven't we've had a different champion the last.
Yeah, but there was a good run where the Spurs won a bunch, the Lakers won a bunch.
No, I know, but it's
And
still.
so-
But we've had more parity probably the last 5 years than we've had in a long
Yeah.
time in the NBA, and still, I mean, you go look at.
Well, I mean,
16
we're not adding a new team to that this year.
No.
So even if
You're
it's
right.
new, the Mavs and Celtics both have a
Have
championship
already
since
won
then.
one, yeah.
So
yeah, 16 Major League Baseball teams have won the title since 2001. 13 NFL teams have won since 2001. 14 NHL teams have won since 2001. The NBA has been an aristocracy. That is changing now. But it has been an aristocracy for a long time. I didn't realize that. And I saw that number and I was like,
yeah, I
I
mean,
was blown
up
away by it.
until more recently, major markets were a huge coup for free agents. So that was one of the things of the Lakers always being able to pull big players because they were going to get on TV more. They were going to be the big market team, so they could pull all these free agents, and they were always going to be near the top. Because even when they were down, they're able to get Kobe Bryant because he threatens to not go to any other teams. And so when he gets drafted by Charlotte, he basically says, "I'm not going." And so Jerry West is able to trade for him and get him to come to the Lakers, and then they signed Shaq. Because Orlando posted according to Shaq, the newspaper posted a article saying, "Is he worth however much that contract was?" And the people of the paper voted no, and he was like, "You don't like me, Orlando? Then screw you, I'm leaving." That's what he said. Shaq said a lot of things over the years, but that was what Shaq's explanation was.
Yeah, that's a nice little breakdown of it. Yeah, and you're right about the glamour market thing in the NBA. There's no doubt about that. And maybe now with the more parity with the new CBA, which is also you're right, going to kind of bring more balance back to the NBA. So there you go. A little what the facts with the stats there. How about this factoid? Caitlin Clark. We got to talk about the Caitlin Clark. There's a controversy about whether she was hip checked too hard in the. Did you see? Did you
There
even
is,
watch?
but I've seen the reality is, and we can get into it more. But every generational talent that comes up in basketball, at least in NBA, is going to be physically pushed against, and it's a case in most sports. Is if we think that you're a generational talent, we know one thing that has not changed in all the history of sports: bigger people can push you around. So bigger people are going to push you around until you get and put up some size. It's one of those pieces of why Michael Jordan became Michael Jordan was because he was already kind of a strong guy and then got stronger and was able to deal with guys pushing him around a lot more. But it is a standard procedure. It's what everybody said they were going to do to Wemby. And then it did happen defensively.
Early
guys
on,
like
it did, yeah.
and Joel Embiid
Early
and Şengün, those guys went after him. And so it was, we're just going to, elbow you in the side and push on you and do whatever we can because we know that's what the game is when you get on early. I've seen some of the stuff of Caitlin Clark and her getting, face guarded like in the first quarter of a game is insane. To just for 40 minutes, we're going to face guard her. It is crazy in a professional league, but I get there's a lot of people in that league who don't like the attention she's getting, even though it's good for the league that she's getting it.
It's great.
And so they all want to be the one to shut her down. And I get, if you're a coach or you're a competitor, you want to prove that you're the better player. And so if you can't do it necessarily any other way, you're going to be physical. So it's just, that's what happens to generational talents that come out historically. And it's just happening in women's sports. And I think they were not ready for it.
Yeah, you're right about that. We haven't seen it really. Well, I think the spotlight, it's been happening in women's sports, but there hadn't been a spotlight in women's sports. So now we're talking about it because there's a spotlight. But yeah, you're right. All those generational talents that went to WNBA, they have to deal with it too. There's no doubt. But because of that, that's what I wanted to get to. And I want to talk about that later on the show, though, actually, a little bit about, whether I think it's actually great for the WNBA that we're talking about whether Caitlin Clark is getting, abused and hip checked too much in the WNBA. But the average viewership of regular season WNBA games on ESPN networks, it was in 2021, 306,000, 2022, 372,000, 2023, 440,000, 2024, 1.4 million.
Getting up there. It's going.
Caitlin Clark effect. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Keep whatever it is, just keep it going. She needs to stay in the headlines,
Yeah.
even if she's not necessarily playing like elite basketball all the time. And
Exactly.
this is a great way, salacious way for her to stay in the headlines. All right, we come back. We'll get into some discussion about the Texas baseball program. Their season is over, but Texas softball, their season continues on. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about the NBA finals. They are set. They're happening on Thursday, but we'll still start to piecemeal some of the breakdown, the preview of the Mavs and the Celtics. We'll dive into that coming up next segment as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast featuring my man Patrick Davis, my co-host, and he, as the idealionaire, comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. And a Smooth Soul Monday is meant to make the transition from the fun-filled, happy weekend, good times of the weekend, to the stress-filled, hectic work week. And to make that transition as smooth as possible, he comes up with jams intended to make your Monday a Smooth Soul Monday. So we appreciate his efforts. Also, you got the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. Also, something Patrick comes up with, always a conversation starter. What is the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day, Patrick?
Big Fat Poll of the day today: should David Pierce keep his job? We asked you a couple weeks ago or a week ago when we were going to the postseason. Should he keep his job? And pretty overwhelmingly, I believe it was that he should. And the polls today, at least on X, not so much, and not on the text line either. We get a few people that say he should get another shot, and they They should hire him a coach, and they should do. And that's my biggest problem with Dave. Like, that's the problem is, can you get him to relinquish some control of this team and still be effective and do what he wants to do? Or is he going to be hard-headed and stubborn and say, I don't want to get more transfers. I don't want to get, go out and try and use NIL more in recruiting. I don't want to bring in pitching coaches. I don't want to listen to your suggestions. I want to do things my way, and I think it'll work. Because if that's the case, that's where I think you might have to cut out. And they say, well, we think you're a really good coach, but you need other people to make you better. And that's been the line.
No, I mean, he's a good coach. Is Hall of Fame is he a Hall of Fame caliber coach? I think is what, does he have that kind of ceiling is what Longhorn fans want to know. Because for Texas baseball, their standard is too high to just have a good coach in there.
Yes.
And that's nothing against Coach Pierce. But that's how high their standard is. And honestly, Texas football is the same way. Coach Tom Herman was a good coach. But was he? And I think that actually somewhere in Tom Herman, there's I think he has the potential to be great one day as a coach. But Longhorn fans wanted a coach with a higher ceiling and a coach that was a Hall of Fame caliber coach. Now, will Sark be a Hall of Famer? I'm not sure, but we know Sark has that in him because Sark was once a prodigy. Right? Sark was once a prodigy. Al Davis wanted to hire Sark as a young phenom to be a head coach in the NFL. All right, Sark was on his way to being a prodigy, got derailed, battling some demons. We all got him. All right, we all have to battle them. Overcame those demons, and now he's back on probably the track that he would have been on before everything got derailed for him. So,
yeah, and I mean,
for Sarks, what do you want to say? It's in him to be that high, high level Hall of Fame caliber coach. And now we've kind of seen it. And I think what Sark also has done with Longhorn fans, how he's built trust in such a short time, in just 3 years. Every season seems to build on the last season in the way the last season ended, right? It does seem that 2021, you went 5-7, but then 2022, you picked up right where you left off. I mean, you found a way to win that K-State game late in that 2021 year. I was like, oh, well, at least they found a way to win that game. At least they didn't give up on the season. They could have ended up having the longest losing streak, I think, in modern Texas football history. And it was like, no. This is a team that, they showed some fight. They showed some grit. And then you got the 2022 season where you're not collapsing, all right, quite like you were in 2021. These games are closed. They're coming down to clutch time. You just can't find a way to close these games out. And then in 2023, of course, boom, you start closing out, winning games late, winning with goal line stands, winning with by going to Tuscaloosa in Alabama, being able to choke them out with the running game, being able to close out games with, clutch conversions on third down. Just, you found different ways to win. And if you're a Longhorn fan watching it, it feels like you've watched the gradual evolution and the linear trajectory of this team. And what hurts David Pierce, at least perception-wise with Longhorn fans, is that every season they seem to have to reset and start over.
Yeah.
Solving some of the same problems, dealing with some of the same issues they dealt with last year. And like for Texas football fans, they're looking at Sark going, well, Sark solved that problem. He solved this problem, solved that problem. That's why the team has gotten better. Yeah, there'll be new problems that arise every season for every coach. You're a problem solver for any sport. But they shouldn't be systemically the same issues that have existed every season. And for Coach Pierce, the pitching thing is definitely one of those.
It is. And I think that's it. You want to see growth from your coaches.
Yes.
That was, we talk about Tom Herman. That was one of the biggest problems that Tom Herman had, was that you just didn't see growth in him as a person and as a coach. You saw him dig his heels in. And that's the David Pierce problem. Is I think David Pierce is a really good coach. I just think he's really stubborn. And when you say you're part of a program in a school that has so many resources, the fact that you start to turn down more resources when that should be a way to help you get further along, that's when I start to question, is this the right place for you? Because if you don't want to use it, like, that's one of Texas' main perks is the resources. Yes, and so when you start to turn those down and you say, no, I don't care that we have a budget and we could pay, a very high salary to a pitching coach, I'm doing it myself. And I know we could pay this guy, but no, I want to do that myself. And I want to do that myself. And what do you want to do in recruiting? Do we want to we have NIL money? No, pay these guys that are coming in and being our team. Don't pay. Let's not go try and get that next transfer portal guy who can go help us. Like all of those pieces, that's more the issue of where the game is going and what we see what's happening in the SEC, where we're going. You'd like to be able to have a more progressive coach than a coach that says, this is the way it gets done. This is what's worked for me in the past, and I'm going to keep doing it. Instead of saying, well, this clearly isn't working. It's working to an extent, but not well enough. You expect his standard to be the Texas standard. Yeah. And it feels like he's okay if he does it his way and they come short. Well, that's just the way it goes. But no, the standard needs to be any way that you can make it to Omaha every single year. And again, that's not necessarily feasible, but it needs to be better than you're a 3 seed in a regional with your rival and you don't make it to the final day of the regional.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is also making the situation, I think, even more difficult. And it's making it, I guess, the seat even hotter for David Pierce, is that the Aggies right now in baseball, they are an elite program. Yeah. And if they win the national title, and trust me, folks, I was on the 40 acres when Oklahoma won a national title in Mac's second year, and it changes the pressure dynamic. It ratchets up the pressure to a whole nother level. Just even programs winning national titles in, on your periphery, just around you, that'll add some pressure. But your rival, it changes things, man. I remember, and Mike thought he was doing good, had a Heisman Trophy and had beaten Nebraska, had upset Nebraska, winning 9 games. Mac was like, had recruited the #1 recruiting class in the country in '99, had Chris Sims and Corey Redding, and Mac thought to himself, I'm rolling, baby. We are doing really well here. And then Bob Stoops blows us out in 2000, wins the national title, and then Mac is sweating all of a sudden. It's like, I thought I was doing really well. And it's like, yeah, you were. That guy just did better, though, and won a national title. So, 10 wins is not enough anymore. And Mac felt that, right? Remember, 10 wins wasn't enough at Texas. Winning double-digit games wasn't enough until you win the national title. And so if the Aggies win that national title in baseball, it's going to change the power dynamic, changes the pressure dynamic. It does. And I'm not saying that's wrong at all. That's just the nature of the beast. And there's also Texas baseball fans looking at the SEC and the level of competition in the SEC and saying, well, if our Texas baseball team can't dominate and be a powerhouse in the Big 12, which is a good baseball conference, but it's not the SEC, then how can we expect to be a powerhouse in a conference of powerhouses in the SEC?
Exactly.
And they don't trust their coach is going to do that. Texas fans trust that Sark going to have them ready for the SEC. Like,
it is. And that's why I said I brought up Rodney Terry earlier, but it's if you talk about basketball, I think there's a thought of, okay, maybe it'll be a little bit easier in the SEC for basketball.
Yes.
So maybe we're taking a step there. So we can wait and let's give Rodney Terry another year and we'll see where he's at, because new conference, feel we can compete there because we competed in the Big 12 versus David Pierce. You've had a few more years at this, and it feels like it's not necessarily going the way that everybody wanted to go. And now we're going into, the same as football. It's the conference. Yeah. So if you're walking into the conference and, we get knocked out of the Big 12 tournament in 2 games, and then we go to a regional, and Louisiana's the one who actually knocks us out. I know we lost A&M an extra, but Louisiana knocks us out. Like, that's not how you want to. You want to be able to go and go, if he beats A&M 1 game and then they go and they get knocked out, they lose to Louisiana the next day, or they lose 2 more games and don't even advance out of the regional, but you still got to win over A&M. I think it gives you a little bit more clout.
Agreed. Yep. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I'm just in the way the season ended. That's a sour taste in Texas baseball fans' mouth, because it's the first time since 2019 that Pearson Longhorns haven't made the Super Regional. So sour taste by the way the season ended. And then a little bit of anxiety about going into the SEC, the level of competition, and then a side eye looking at what the Aggies are doing. And if the Aggies ended up, like I said, winning the national title, it's gonna change the pressure, and the hot seat will get ratcheted up for David Pierce. So there you go. That's the big fat poll of the day. But looks like right now, Texas baseball fans, right now I think it's 63% of Texas baseball fans, when asked, should David Pierce keep his job, said no on the poll that we have right here on the X account. So go to Horn ATX in the X verse. It just doesn't feel the same. Twitterverse sounds better.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day. Then we'll come back, talk a little NBA. Let's talk a little about the NBA Finals. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball had no problems taking care of Florida 10-0 in 5 innings on Saturday to advance in the Women's College World Series after a dominant performance by Mac Morgan, who only allowed 1 hit in the game. The Longhorns will now face Stanford once again in a matchup where Texas has 2 chances to win 1 game to advance to the finals, where they will play the winner of Florida and Oklahoma. Texas baseball dropped 2 games in their regional this weekend, ending the Longhorn season in disappointing fashion. A heartbreaking 11-inning loss to Texas A&M on Saturday led the way to a return matchup with Louisiana on Sunday, where Texas could not get going, losing 10-2 and finishing their season earlier than expected. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their series to the Twins over the weekend, with Ryan Presley giving up the go-ahead run on Sunday in the 8th inning. The Astros now move on to a series with the Cardinals, with Verlander taking the mound for the Astros tonight. And the Rangers took care of the Marlins 2-1, with Corey Seager extending his hitting streak to 15 games over the weekend. And that win pulls the Rangers back to just a game under 500 on the season. They will now take on the Tigers this week, and that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Let's get into a little bit of NBA Finals talk here. Just start previewing this matchup just a little bit. I'm excited about it. I know Patrick is too. So one of the things that I've been looking at is, because it's a battle of 2 great backcourts, right? So I think the first question is between Jaylen Brown, who's, he's been great for them. Jason Tatum's been awesome, which I say duo more than anything, not backcourt. I say duo because you do have Luka and Kyrie. But what duo do you think is going to perform here? I think both of them are averaging around 51 points per game. Luka and Kyrie are at 51.6 points combined this postseason. I believe Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are at 51 points combined this postseason. Which duo has a better NBA Finals?
I mean, it's a difficult question, because the issue with, if you just said off the top,
I know where you're going here. Yeah.
If you just say off the top, it's Luka and Kyrie.
Okay.
But the problem is the Celtics are specifically set up with 2 really, really good perimeter defenders at the guard position. And so Luka and Kyrie are going to have to go up against really good defenders that are set up in a way that it's just going to be more difficult for them to get open, especially Kyrie, who I think they'll understand. I think the Celtics in a lot of this series may say, we'll let Luka do his damage. If we let him be the only guy, though, then we're going to be okay in this series. So I think there could be points in this of, yes, switch off. He'll have 40 a game. We don't care. If we keep Kyrie under 20, we can probably win this series.
Yep, that's the key.
And so I think that'll be the bigger problem is, can you get both those guys? Can you get both players to set up and go where they need to be? Whereas it's just going to be a harder series for them to guard Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, where, you could say, well, Derek White and Drew Holiday are going to get theirs because they're going to be against the weaker defenders. But PJ Washington on Jason Tatum is a matchup that I just don't know until I see it, if PJ Washington is going to be able to stay in that matchup and not get in foul trouble, and let Jason Tatum just kind of go on him. And I think there's going to be points where Tatum's going to wear down PJ Washington at points. And if as long as Mazzulla and Tatum keep themselves involved in the game, then that's really where they can pull it up. We know Jaylen Brown's going to go get his, because that's what he wants to go get his. You don't have to help him go get it. I think the Celtics will actively try to get Tatum involved a lot early to try and push and get PJ Washington tired, get PJ Washington off his game. That's where I would probably put him. So I would say, if we say with defense, and it's more the question of, do they allow Kyrie to do a little bit more? Then I would say it would probably be Tatum and Brown. But again, I'm favoring the Celtics in this series just because I think they have such a talent advantage. But at the same point, I wasn't necessarily expecting Kyrie to step up as much in this playoffs as he has. And if they can find a way to continue to get him involved and actively seek to get him involved and get him on screens and run plays for Kyrie, then if he plays well, that's how the Mavs win the series.
That's a great. I'm glad you brought that up. That's exactly where I was going. I thought I knew where you were going. I've been working with Patrick long enough. So Kyrie Irving, Derek White gives Kyrie Irving fits.
Yeah.
The few times they've played each other. How about this one? Among players whom Irving has played at least 10 times in his career, his single most difficult opponent has been Derek White. Kyrie is 2-12 straight up against White in his career. And actually, he's not much better against Drew Holiday. He's 8-16 against Drew Holiday. But it says Boston acquired White in February 2022. Celtics have faced Irving 10 times since, including the playoffs. And Kyrie Irving is 0-10 straight up, but that's because he hasn't been with Luka, of course. But 0-10 straight up in those games. His scoring drops to just 20 points per game on 42% from the field. But so there's a history here, basically, is my point. And to your point, you're right. They have so many bodies to throw at that Mavs backcourt. I mean, it could be Drew Holiday and Derek White. You talked about they're the all NBA second team defensive guys. So they're elite defenders. But hell, Jaylen Brown, you could throw him out there to defend them, to throw out there as a mix as well. They just have so many elite bodies to throw at that group. It's going to be interesting to see Kyrie's mindset. Kyrie knows those stats. I mean, Kyrie knows more than anybody, and he's probably this is the most mature we've seen Kyrie in his role, the role that he has here with the Mavs. I'm with you. I think it's going to be big if Kyrie can have a few games where Kyrie ends up going off, regardless of who they throw at him. In terms of who they're going to,
and we're going to see a lot too of how Boston's going to try and defend the Mavs, with the back cuts and getting the ball to the bigs and getting to Gafford and Lively or Derek Jones cutting or PJ cutting and getting those guys on those back cuts that the Mavs love so much, where they're you can defend all day long, but in the pick and roll, what can you do on those? So you could use Kyrie in the pick and roll a lot as well, and if he's averaging 15 assists a game, I'd say he's doing pretty well as well. So it's at the end of the day, it comes down to defensively. I think there's just more firepower for the Celtics, which is why I give the edge. But I think Luka is going to get his no matter what. Like, he's just that player. It's the playoffs. He's getting a week off to rest too, which is going to be huge for him. Maybe that scab on his knee will finally heal. He won't have that bloody leggings every day that he was having. But it's
like a wrestler. He's bleeding all the time.
That's so they had those pictures of him in the locker room with the trophies and the bloody knee and the
exactly right. They kind of like it now. It's just good for the photo op. But I'm with. I think Kristaps Porzingis could be the X factor here too. They can win without Kristaps Porzingis, but if he's not going to be completely healthy. But he's been. I mean, I don't know how long he's been out, but he's been out most of the damn playoffs getting healthy, and now he's practicing. You just talked about the rim protection. That's something he could add more of.
It's a 7-footer in the lineup just to have him, because Al Horford's not a 7-footer. Al Horford's 6'9", 6'10", something like that. So if you want to say Al Horford's your one guy who's in there, and then you bring in Luke Cornett, who is just not as athletic enough to do those types of things, you don't have necessarily the people that can at least put a body out or put a hand up and stop passing lanes. That's really what you need to have any shot at it. So him coming back defensively will be a big piece. Offensively, I don't know if he'd be necessarily the biggest, but like we can look at it with Kawhi Leonard in that series early on, the first round with the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard wasn't necessarily effective offensively, but he was defensively. And that's where Kristaps Porzingis, who's not the best defensive player in the world anyway, but to just give them a little bit more depth to add into that lineup of, where I would assume he would come off the bench, but you'd have him be able to come in points of if they're just lobbing the ball over Al Horford and they're just lobbing the ball over everybody and getting dunks, then, you bring in someone who can at least maybe try and block some of those passes.
Yeah, and he can take them bigs away from the basket defensively if he can stroke the three. If he's still, if he's healthy enough to shoot the three, he's one of those guys that does it better than Horford too. So he could be an X factor. That really could be a game changer. Like, they need another advantage the Celtics do. But Kristaps Porzingis looks like he's going to be healthy and ready to go. Something else that I think is interesting to look at, I think three-point percentage, obviously going to be 3-point ball is going to be big, no matter what series you're talking about. But I saw this stat about the Celtics and how much they shoot the 3-point shot. And I didn't realize this, just doing some research. Nobody shoots the three more than the Celtics. Boston led the league all season in 3-pointers taken and made, hitting them at the second best percentage in the league. They've actually still been able to be relatively efficient from the 3-point range in the playoffs. But I got this stat from my research on the Mavs. Mavs opponents from 3-point range in these playoffs shooting 36%. Something's got to give. So basically, the Mavs have the best 3-point defense in these playoffs, and you're dealing with the Celtics, who I'm say they live and die by the three, but it is their bread and butter, no question. They made and taken more 3-pointers than anybody else in the NBA this season. So 3-point defense for the Mavs is going to be big.
It is going to be very big. It's going to be very big. I mean, and that's what you say is what can Kyrie and Luka do defensively is going to be huge as well, because that's where Derek White has lived on the 3-point, and we've seen him destroy teams in the playoffs. And he cooled off a bit there and then at the stretch, but if Derek White starts going off, then it's a problem.
Yeah, that could be a big problem for the Mavs. Yeah, I don't know exactly where this series is going to tilt to one team or the other, but Boston, I mean, they will be favored in every game.
Yes. Yeah, I believe it's the first finals the Celtics are favored in since like the 1980s. They played in some, but they were never favored in any of those. But now they're playing the Mavs. They are now favored to be in there. So yes,
Mavs as the ultimate underdog, and they should be. I mean, the Celtics won 64 games, number 1 offense, number 3 defense in the regular season. They dominated their postseason run. What they go 11-2 in their bracket in the postseason. Yeah, they should be favored in every game. The thing about the Celtics is they've actually been pretty good in clutch time. They just haven't been pushed a lot in clutch time. The Mavs have lived in clutch time in the postseason. Whether that'll play a role, because usually it comes down to, as we pointed out, superstars in clutch time. And I wonder the dynamic that you always talk about between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That dynamic duo. But it seems like the roles are more defined with the Mavs duo than with the Celtics duo.
Yes.
And I wonder if that may show some cracks in now that they're in the finals, and that hopefully they are pushed to the limit, and that those roles not being defined may come back to haunt them a little bit, especially in clutch time, especially against an elite opponent. We'll see. I mean, the Mavs were a 5 seed, so I'm not I say elite opponent, but they played so well toward the end. They just weren't the same team all year.
No, they were. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's what really in this series, it's what can Kyrie do, and can you keep the games close enough to get to clutch time to where Luka can really shine and do what he does and prove that he's the best player in the world. That's what he wants to do in this finals. You need that.
I agree. Yeah, that's exactly. Get it to clutch time, and after that, I think honestly, the advantage might flip back to the Mavs if they can get it to like 3 minutes. And the score, if they can get to like 3 minutes within 3 points, the advantage may flip back to the Mavs at that point. Because they're so comfortable there. And the roles are defined for everybody in those situations where the Celtics are not. So you're right about that. Get it to clutch time, baby. Get it to clutch time. All right.
Do you want to hit some breaking news real quick?
Yes, let's do it.
Our breaking news that the Cowboys are a little bit more screwed than they were a minute ago.
No.
Justin Jefferson has reached an agreement with the Vikings.
What a
4-year, $140 million. That's 35 a year, 110 in guarantees. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history.
Wow.
Justin
How
Jefferson.
much a year?
35 a year. 4 years, 140.
I think I said I said a week ago. I was like, they're gonna get to they'll get to 35 a year. I thought it would take them a month or so. So we're at 35 a year already.
We are at 35 a year.
They're gonna push the wide receiver market in a year to $40 million a year. It's gonna be a $40 million a year market for the max wide receiver in a year.
Yeah.
Right? When you think about the way it's going now.
The way it's going.
Because you got who's up still? Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, right?
CeeDee Lamb. And then you throw in the Brandon Ayuk's and T. Higgins.
Brandon Ayuk's and those guys down in the future. Wow.
Yeah. So CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase still looking at that. Both their agents. Just don't need coffee this morning. Feeling good.
I still don't know what they're waiting. I guess at this point, why sign now? You might as well just wait out the market. I mean, at this point, you're still gonna pay now. Now you're paying 35. You're paying 35.
I will say
a year.
This is. I think they were like the Bengals will be cheap, and they didn't realize every other team was going to sign him first. They were like, we're waiting on that Jamar Chase deal to help us out.
No,
and it is not happening. But yeah, that is your breaking. Justin Jefferson, 35 a year, 140 million, 110 guaranteed.
Like I said, the wide receiver market, we can talk. You know what? We'll talk about it on the other side because we'll do a brief behind the Burns curtain. Then we'll get back to this story because it does affect the Dallas Cowboys. All right, we'll come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation here. Let's first hear from Steve Sarkisian. Congratulations are in order for Bert Auburn because Bert Auburn, who wasn't on scholarship, earned his scholarship, and it was announced in a team meeting from Steve Sarkisian. Here's the audio.
The work ethic, they go through the same grind the soft scholarship guys go on all summer long. So when we can reward those guys, man, there's nothing better. Bert Auburn, you're on scholarship.
Love all you guys. You guys are all like a family to me. Couldn't be more excited to get to work this summer with y'all. Okay.
There you go. Congratulations to Bert Auburn. Those are always heartwarming, touching stories of players earning scholarships. I remember when I played, guys like Richard Hightower, Peanut, who's actually coach for the Bears now, he earned a scholarship. There's a lot of guys that I played with who earned a scholarship. So it's always great, but keep in mind the future of college football may not include walk-ons. That's just reality. A lot of discussion about roster limits, administrators and ADs and presidents, they're talking about cutting costs of football is your biggest revenue source, but it's also your biggest expense. And now you got a $20 million kind of added expense to that with revenue sharing amongst the players. So apparently the walk-ons, they think for certain, I don't know, just basically in terms of certain logistics, it just may not be feasible financially in the new framework of college football, because I think it might be too much an unneeded expense and unnecessary expense, I should say. And what they've what they've used in this argument is the NFL model.
Yeah.
NFL 53-man roster, you got your practice squad, and they play now 17 games plus the playoffs. And these, decision makers, the college level are saying, hey, look, the NFL gets it done. They don't need 80-something players to do it. You should be able to do it without 89, 90 players, whatever it is on scholarship. The argument would be the development, and we've talked about that too, is that, you do need lines of scrimmages, at least you need to be able to develop these guys for a couple of years, and it'll be tough to justify, having guys on a 60, 70 something man roster who are not necessarily going to play right away, who are not going to contribute right away. It'd be hard to justify that if you don't have more roster space, but you do need O linemen, D linemen to develop over time. That takes a while. Weight room, strength and conditioning. So I don't know what the compromise.
I am curious too if there's some thought in that of pitching it where it is a money thing, but when you're pitching it it'll bring back a little bit more parity because teams will not be able to stack class upon class, and they won't be able to. So people will only, if you lower the scholarships and walk-ons and the people they can have on the roster, then it means that those players are going somewhere else. So it'll help the parity of the game a little bit more, which in one sense is, well, you could be hurting student athletes by not allowing them to go to the schools they want to go to. On the flip of that, you could help other schools by letting them get a little bit better players, showing them, letting them come in when they want to. So there could be pieces of that. And, it's just an interesting, different thought of it. And I think you'd say, well, then we'd still have walk-ons, but they realize in today's landscape, we talk about Bert Auburn made more money as an NIL than he would have made as a scholarship.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do about the walk-on program. I'm not even sure how they're going to handle red shirts going forward. I mean, that's something I expect is going to be, clarified going forward, how red shirts work. And I've heard they want a range in the roster size. Like there's a max. You could have a max of 85, but you could have as few if you want to work with it as 70, 4 or 75. Like they're going to have a range you could work with, which, I guess if you don't want to have 80 something scholarships, you don't have to. It would be an advantage for you to have that many. But what if you don't want that many guys and you want to operate with just 70 something players? Very interesting. Because I don't know exactly where it's going, but the coaches want this. Know this: the coaches want walk-ons. I mean, Bobby Burton told me this on Texas Football. Coaches want walk-ons, and the administrators and the decision makers, the bureaucrats who are looking at the spreadsheet and the bottom line, they don't want walk-ons because they believe it's an expense that's unnecessary. But the coaches are like, oh, this is rewarding. It's an experience. Sark's son is a walk-on.
Yeah.
A lot of these coaches, they were walk-ons themselves. So they have a sentimental person. But if we're looking at the NFL model, the argument would be the NFL does it without those numbers. I guess the counter argument would be, yeah, but they're more fully developed, mature athletes as opposed to colleges getting high school teenagers.
I wonder if they would be, if they would go into a model too of having a practice squad where you're a walk-on, but you don't suit out. You're not that. You're on campus, but you don't have a game jersey because you ain't ever wearing one. You don't have any of that until you make the actual roster, but you can just be, so you can still be there and you can still go to school and you can still be a part of the program, but you don't get to dress. You don't get to, even for home games, you don't get to have any of that extra part. And it's not, that could be a compromise of getting a few more players involved where you could still have players. Because what I'm thinking of too is, there's been legacy walk-ons a lot of times of players where they go, my father, my grandfather both went to UT. If you knock the limits down to 70, or 80, and they go, well, I'm not in the top 80. I'm not making that roster.
And
but I'm still a good enough high school football player. I still could go there and be a part of it. But they're not going to give me a scholarship. I'm not going to be on the active. I'm not playing. So that could be a compromise, at least in piece of it.
No, I'm with you. I think that's a great idea.
And that also opens up for, if you get through the season and you have injury problems, you can then call people up from that squad. And there's certain provisions for, if you have certain amount of injuries.
Just like the NFL practice
squad.
Yeah,
exactly.
Same thing. Yeah.
So
I agree with you. Maybe that's the way. Maybe give everybody 70 plus scholarships and say you got a 10 to 15 man practice squad, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
That you can keep. I actually like that idea. I mean, just like Sark said, a lot of these answers that college football is looking for, the NFL's already addressed them. The NFL's already given you the answer. You just got to look to them, and that gets to your practice squad idea too. So I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but like I said, that's not bad. And maybe that solves like the red shirt idea, the red shirt issue too.
Yeah.
That's your red shirt. Basically, that's your red shirt, guys. The red shirt would be kind of your practice squad. You can call it what you want. That's not bad. That's just good stuff there. All right. I don't know if we have enough time to dive into. I want to get into the NFL story a little bit with Justin Jefferson signing this deal. I haven't seen the details just yet, but man, the wide receiver market is just it's crazy right now. Remember we pointed this out last week maybe, because where's the Nico Collins deal that was signed? There were like 2 receivers that signed last week. Nico Collins and somebody else signed. Forgot about that, right? Somebody else too. But anyway,
Jalen Waddle.
Right, Jalen Waddle. Thank you very much. Remember we discussed that in 5 years ago that there were only 5 receivers making 20 plus mil a year, and now there are 20 receivers making 20 plus mil a year in the NFL. And Patrick just told you that the Justin Jefferson deal is at 35 mil per year. So that's the top of the wide receiver market. So the wide receiver market, to me, is just the only reason it's strange is because it doesn't make a lot, like other than quarterback. Quarterback, we all agree, different beast altogether in terms of the valuation overall of that position and how it's handled. The value of the quarterback position increases every year because it's the most valuable position in football. But other than quarterback, we haven't seen a position inflation essentially hit a position like it's hit the wide receiver position. And the thing that's crazy is you have a lot. The supply is at an all-time high, and the demand is also at an all-time high. Supply and demand are at an all-time high for wide receivers, and they're paying them more than they've ever paid them before, right? So in 2022, there were 17 wide receivers drafted in rounds 1 through 3. Well, I believe it was in 2023 was 14 of them taken in rounds 1 through 3. You had 11 receivers taken in the first 2 rounds this past draft. You had 8 taken in the first 2 rounds in 2023. You had 13 taken in the first 2 rounds of 2022. So more so than ever before, teams are drafting more and more wide receivers, and they're drafting them high with premium draft capital. From 2012 to 2018, a 7-year period, you basically had 8 wide receivers taken in the first 2 rounds on average. 8 taken in the first 2 rounds every year on average. In the last 6 years, that number is damn near 11 taken in the first 2 rounds on average. So we're taking more receivers earlier on the draft. They drafted more. They drafted them earlier. If you go look at the wide receivers with 900 plus receiving yards in a rookie season in the last 5 years, we're at 3.2 wide receivers per year in the last 5 years have had at least 900 yards receiving in their rookie campaign. In the 5 years prior to that, you go look at 2012 to 2018, that number was at 1.2. You were at only 1 receiver was getting at least 900 yards receiving in their rookie campaign. So more wide receivers taken high up in the draft. Rookie wide receivers are more productive than they've ever been. So you're drafting them high and you're using them, all right? So they're more productive. So they got the numbers to back it up. And on top of that, they're paying them more. I mean, the receivers are getting paid more than they've ever been paid in the NFL. So to me, it's like I said, I don't know when something's going to disrupt the wide receiver market. I've said before, wide receiver is the deepest position in football at any level. So it doesn't make a ton of sense to not only draft them high, but then after you draft them high as rookies, you can see if they produce early as rookies, and then to pay them on top of that. So we've seen a couple of teams, Kansas City Chiefs, the Tennessee Titans did it, the Green Bay Packers did it, trade their elite wide receiver and say, you know what, we're resetting the market. Wide receiver is a deep position. It's a relatively cheap position when we draft it. It's a premium position now. I'm not paying $30 million a year for a wide receiver. I'd rather go draft another really young, great one. So Kansas City's done it. Green Bay's done it. Tennessee's done it. And I won. And now you have teams like Miami, teams like the Eagles, where they have 2 wide receivers making 20+ million a year. 2 of them, which is wild. Never thought we'd see that. So I think you'll get team split where some teams decide, no, we're resetting. We'll just draft one. And other teams, they'll double down and keep paying them. I probably would reset. I probably would be a resetter. I probably would just, like the Steelers and the Packers, I would just draft wide receivers in like the second round every year. Give me an AD Mitchell. I get guys like that around that second round. Devontae Adams, I believe, was a second round pick too. I'd get right around there and start drafting my wide receivers, second and third round. You get really good. Hey, Xavier Worthy almost dropped to you. You'll get some good second and third round wide receiver talent. Yeah, I think.
I'd also
think that's why I would draft.
Spend a lot of money in getting scouts who scout wide receivers well.
There you go. It's a great point.
Because
yes,
the highest paid scout of wide receivers, you could probably get 50 of them, 60 of them for what these wide receivers are making now.
I agree with that, Patrick. You're right. Yeah, find you a guy who can identify the talent.
And the problem that you have places for like Jerry Jones, he when you see the Justin Jefferson contract, that can make sense for the Vikings because you need to have a marketable player still on your team. You still have to have it, and you now have a rookie quarterback. Yep. So you have a wage scale that you're going to be able to work with on your quarterback market for the next 4 to 5 years that is usable with that Justin Jefferson contract. And then you can deal with it down the road with what happens. But it makes sense for them. For Jamar Chase and the Bengals and for CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys, they are much on the other side of the spectrum on that with very high paid quarterbacks. And it feels like it's getting harder and harder to live in the world where you can pay your quarterback premier money and your wide receivers premier money. You kind of have to pick and choose, I think. And that's where the Cowboys are going to be at with, are you going to pay Dak premier money or CD premier money? If you pay them both, are you still going to have a chance to build a team that can win?
Yep.
And they may have to make that decision this offseason. Which one do you go with? And that's where it gets difficult. But I don't know if the Cowboys can keep them both. If they're going to if both of those positions keep escalating, you may have to go with more of that Chiefs model, which is, well, we'll get rid of Tyreek. We'll get a new guy, and, we're going to pay our quarterback because he's elite. Or you can try and go the route of, we know we're going to have elite wide receivers, and then we'll figure out the quarterback position. And we'll, I think if you have the guy quarterback, you got to keep the quarterback. But do they think that's the guy with Dak?
Man, this wide receiver market is amazing.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And by the way, Justin Jefferson, he wasn't making $20 million last year, so he's now added to that. So just like 21 wide receivers making $20+ million now. There were 5 of them 5 years ago in 2020.
Every running back just looking over there like, why did I not work on my hands?
Exactly. You see, that's a great point. It's like, man, I'd rather work on my hands. Let me get in that slot a little bit. All right, we come back. We got off the record on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. It's one of the reasons people keep moving to Austin, making the traffic even worse. But that's okay, because as the city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were created and built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or you want a refreshing career change, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482. Right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. So maximize your potential today and be your best self. Simply go online and apply at ironworkerslocal482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for a little off the record. Got a couple of items that I want to hit here. The first, something that we speculated about last week. Turns out I was right about this when we heard that Mike Tyson had a issue that they had to call like a doctor, right,
on a plane and they have like a
I don't know what
the
it
hospital,
was.
like they have the ambulance waiting and
an episode of some kind.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you can't be fighting. He had a fight. He was going to fight on July 20th. He's going to fight Jake Paul. And I was like, you can't be fighting if you're having episodes where you need medical attention right before the fight. I guess like a month and a half before the fight. Well, now that fight has been postponed. The announcement came on Friday afternoon. Tyson recently experienced that medical issue we just talked about. They said it was due to an ulcer. And on Thursday, doctors recommended that he basically do minimal training over the next few weeks, and a new date for the fight will be announced June 7th. They said they're going to have a new date announced on June 7th. But yeah, Mike Tyson can't have a medical episode or a medical incident, a public incident like that, and then expect him to clear you for a fight on July 20th. That's not going to happen.
No. That was.
I'm glad it didn't happen.
No, and it was. What's funny is I think he would have clearly gone to the fight, but then they went, well, you're only going to get worse if you keep training the way you're training. Exactly. So you're going to have to like maybe put on a little bit more weight, and and eat a different diet because you're probably dieting super difficult right now. It's a super hard diet. So that's killing your ulcer more. The stress of training is killing your ulcer. It's like you got to heal that up first, and then you can go. I'm curious if they. I mean, I'm sure the moving the date is more a sign of we have a lot of ducks to get in a row before we can move this. Between Netflix streaming it and between and Jerry World hosting it and what they got going on at Jerry World for other things and what makes sense with other fights where you say, well, we don't want to go up against the UFC event or something like that where we may cut away from our potential pull. So all the pieces you have to find to get that together, and then going to all your sponsors and telling them that, hey, by the way, we're moving it. So do you make sure you don't have a big event, or we're not going to lose you if we move this to this date? And
no, you're right. It's again, think about all the moving parts, but you're right, really difficult. And I think first of all, you guys make sure Mike's healed up.
Yes.
So how long is that going to take? It's like that's your number one objective. Get him healed.
Get him healed up, but also he's not getting younger.
No. Father Time is undefeated, and that's what's happening to him right now. Essentially, that's Father Time. All right, here's another off the record story. So have you heard about Lenny Kravitz's celibacy commitment?
No, I did not.
So Lenny Kravitz claims he went nearly a decade without having sex. That's what he claims. That he was basically he was on a spiritual journey that left him celibate for 9 years. The reason I know this is because Ice-T is like been mocking him on social media. I don't know why this is so personal to Ice-T. 9 years without sex, F that BS. Weirdo blank is what Ice-T told me. I was like, I don't know why Ice-T is so personally invested. I don't know, but I didn't know that. I also did not know that Lenny Kravitz was on this journey of celibacy, or at least celibacy was a part of his kind of spiritual journey.
So basically, he had so much sex that he's like, I've done it.
Maybe, yeah. I think I'm sure that's part of it because he's Lenny Kravitz. He had a lot of sex. I mean, he was having a lot of sex.
I wonder how much this too. And this is, but like, he had a daughter, and then his daughter grows up, and he's like, well, I could still get girls my daughter's age, but I don't want to do that anymore because it's my daughter. So I either have to be celibate or be with women my own age. I'll be celibate.
I mean, he's known. He's like a sex symbol.
Yes,
in his life too. So I didn't even know he was on this journey. That he said, basically he acknowledged this earlier this year. So when did it end? I want to know. Is it ongoing? Are we in the midst of it right now, or
we may still be in the midst of it?
I want to know how it ended. Man, I mean, did you have orgy? Like, what did you do in this 9 year, spiritual journey that included celibacy? He said he was. He was celibate.
He realized he was getting no answers. Time to move on.
So the music icon says he's ditched casual flings for nearly. Also, maybe he said he's ditched casual flings for nearly a decade until he finds the right woman.
Okay.
So he's waiting on the right woman. Reflecting on the infidelity, Lenny told The Guardian that his dad predicted he'd end up living the same lifestyle because his dad was a philanderer. And he said it turned out to be true because after his marriage to Lisa Bonet fell apart in 1991, Lenny acknowledged he began acting like a player and womanizing and philandering. And then I guess he's found this enlightenment, and it's through celibacy.
Is that true? Do you think it's true, or is it just a line?
I don't know. He's kind of those deep dudes. I mean, I didn't even know about this. Yeah. He said, I become very set in my ways. It goes without saying he hasn't been in a serious relationship for 9 years. So basically, he is still in the midst of his journey of celibacy.
Wow.
There you go. Still right now. Wow. So now he's probably getting it thrown at him even more. Now women are like, oh, I want to be the one to help him, break his celibacy or whatever, streak of celibacy.
Yeah.
It might be a bit. It might be a bit.
You think that would work for me? Could I just go around? Guys, I've been celibate for.
No, you gotta be a sex symbol for them to throw it at
I know
you
that's the problem is hosting morning radio talking sports is not going to get me.
No, trust me.
The wrong kind of attention.
There are women that might throw it at you, but not the kind of women that you want throwing it at you doing sports radio. But we appreciate it nonetheless. There you go. So, yeah, there you go. Lenny Kravitz celibacy for the last 9 years. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. CJ Stroud's top 5 QBs from the 2023 season. You may be shocked and surprised who's in his top 5. Also, good news on the Dak Prescott contract negotiations. There are 2 teams for Hard Knocks. I thought that was multiple teams for Hard Knocks. Matter of fact, it gets a little confusing. They're going to be like 4 or 5 teams for Hard Knocks too, but I'll explain it on the other side. We're getting some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Also, we'll talk about the NFL's new kickoff return rule that has a lot of special teams coaching thinking outside the box. Oh, and a Rangers report. Can't forget about that. We're jam-packed. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast, thanks to the efforts of Patrick Davis, the Ideallionaire on the show, coming up with jams intended to make the transition from the fun-filled, fun times of the weekend to the hectic, stress-filled work week. He wants to make that transition as smooth as possible because Mondays can tend to slap you in the face. So that's what the purpose is for a Smooth Soul Monday, so we appreciate him. We also appreciate the topic for the Big Fat Poll today that is already up on our X account. You can go check that out at the Horn ATX. Patch, let the people know what the topic is for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day today. Easy one. Should David Pierce keep his job? We've talked about it plenty on the show today. Disappointing into the season, going 1-4 in postseason play. You thought on Friday that maybe the Big 12 tournament was an anomaly and they were going to come back and play. They go to extra innings after some errors against A&M, and they lose that one. It's heartbreaking because you thought, man, this could have been the turn where they start playing well in postseason play, and then they have a disastrous late inning against Louisiana, and it all goes downhill from there, and they're eliminated. So going into the SEC, the question is now, should David Pierce keep his job? And right now, or at least online on the X, it is 64% say no. 64% say no, he should not keep his job.
Yeah, I got a tweet here, or at least that a comment from the post on X, and you can go check out the poll yourself and go vote in it. It says, from Mark, Texas is a baseball blue blood and needs to have a coach that can take them to that level. University of Texas at Omaha. Yeah, I mean, they just you could argue of all the programs on the 40 acres, Texas baseball has among some of the highest standards. Their standards are actually higher than Texas football fan standards because they're blue blood, and it's kind of my hall of fame, kind of my hall of fame rule of three in sports. It's you really can't, and it's really tough to do. It's happened before, but you really can't count on having 3 Hall of Fame caliber anything in a row. Coaches, players, like that's just really tough. And when you have that, listen, we at Texas, we experienced it, right? We had Vince Young and Colt McCoy, and we thought this is gonna last forever. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Vince Young, Colt McCoy's like Garrett Gilbert. It doesn't matter. He was the number 1 quarterback in the country. He was like, also gonna be great again. Just the assumption, yes. And by the way, he was pretty damn good. Played in the NFL, got a Super Bowl ring. All right. He wasn't a scrub, got drafted into the NFL. Wasn't he drafted? He was drafted late, I believe. I'll make sure I check that out. But anyway, my point is, couldn't get 3 in a row, even though Garrett Gilbert was pretty damn good. VY, College Football Hall of Famer, Colt McCoy. I don't know if he is now, but he will be College Football Hall of Famer. You get my point. Like it's tough to get 3 in a row. Green Bay Packers are trying to do it. That great organization, the Green Bay Packers, trying to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Maybe Jordan Love is that good. We shall see. But I don't know. Like the odds are against him. Now they're stacked against him. I said the same thing. The Steelers are one of the only organizations in sports to be able to do it. Patrick brought up Kansas basketball. They're probably one of the only organizations to be able to do it, or programs to do it, to have 3 Hall of Fame coaches in a row. But it's, like I said, it's the odds of Texas doing that after Gus and then Augie.
Yeah.
And David Pierce also being a Hall of Fame coach. Guys, it's happened like 5 times in sports. Like the history of all sports.
Yeah, no, it
just doesn't happen.
No, it does not happen very often. And it's by the way, Garrett Gilbert, 6th round pick.
Yeah, so boom,
yeah,
6th round, baby. Come on, man. He wasn't a scrub.
No, it took him a few years to get to a roster, and because maybe he was not developed properly on the levels to get where he needed to be. But that wasn't just Texas. That was not just Texas.
Well,
it was SMU too, right? He went to SMU after Texas.
Yeah, and he got developed.
He got developed more.
He developed at SMU than he did at Texas. Yeah.
But saying all that, that's but no, I'm with you. It's very hard to put 3 together. And none of this is saying David Pierce is not a good coach, and David Pierce shouldn't.
Not at all.
I think it's the biggest question about it is he going the right direction? Does he have the program going the right direction where you feel more confident next year that you say next year we'll be in Omaha? Because for Texas, if you can't at the end of this season, at the end of every season, say next year we'll be at Omaha, then that's not the standard of this program. Okay. And so and if you want to say year 1, he could say, well, it's going to take us 2 years to get back there. I got to get some guys in the program. We got to get it going. Then that's fine. But once you've spent the years here, you can't say, well, we're not. And then every 3 years we're going to rebuild and we're not going to win championships, but we're going to, we'll get to Omaha and the standard should be next year. You say we're going to get there. And with David Pierce in the SEC, knowing how long it takes him to ramp up against a really tough SEC schedule, are you going to be able to ramp it up the way you have been able to in the Big 12? Or, is this something that it's going to start off poor and stay poor? Or is it going to be okay all season long, and then you're a 3 or a 4 seed in the regional, and that's not where you want to be. You want to be a 1 or a 2 seed. And so, that's more of the question is, can he say everybody feels we're going to get to Omaha next year. And if you don't, then that's when you have to start looking and say, who is the replacement? Who can we get? And is that the right way to go?
No, you're right. Cause basically Longhorn fans do not feel confident that they're going to be able to be a powerhouse program in the SEC with Coach Pierce as their coach because of the level of competition in the SEC. Like I said, they're also paying a lot of attention to the Aggies. They lost to the Aggies in extra innings here in the postseason, but the Aggies are considered to be a powerhouse program. If the Aggies go on to win the national title, we're hoping that they do not, but if they do, that's going to put a lot of added pressure on Coach Pierce and the Texas baseball program. So just the future, I think, is causing Longhorn baseball fans to have a little anxiety and less optimism and more pessimism about the future of the Texas program. And I'll also throw out there what bothers me, and I am on the outside looking in. So I don't, I don't matter as much when it comes to impacting the discourse around Texas baseball, and I understand that. But just observing Texas baseball, Coach, I think part of the frustration is Coach Pierce's seasons. They all kind of are standalone. Like they all kind of stand alone and stand apart, and they don't seem to be like building off one another or building on one another. Sark's 5-7 campaign in 2021, it seems like a linear progression and trajectory from what happened in 2022. Oh, and then what happened in 2023? He's like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, they solved some of the systemic issues, things that were hurting the program. Sark, I would say coaches are problem solvers. Sark's been solving problems for 2 years, and now it's finally solved most of the issues. And they found themselves in the college football playoff. And now Sark says his goal is the national title, because that should be the natural next step, because we already made the semifinals. So we're trying to win the national title or play for the national title or win the SEC, since we won the Big 12. Like every year we're trying to take another step. I think there are a lot of sports on the 40 acres that do seem like they build on the previous postseason. And Texas baseball doesn't seem like they do that. They don't seem like they saw like the problems the problems that they have solved year to year. They seem to come up again systemically, pitching obviously being the number one issue. When a problem is solved, you don't want to see it become a systemic issue where it pops up again for the program. Like what don't we want to see from Texas football next year? We don't want to see red zone issues. We don't want to see Texas be 120th in the country in touchdown percentage red zone, because that would mean, that's a problem that persisted from one season to the next. The biggest issue, what's the biggest concern Longhorn fans have, other than, losing your D tackles, is your secondary, right? Because the secondary hasn't necessarily improved every year. So I think the progress is and the growth and development is what Texas baseball fans want to see, and they're not really seeing it. So, and it's hard to document it right now, but there's no doubt Coach Pierce is he's a good baseball coach. I think Longhorn fans expect a great elite baseball coach.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's Coach Pierce. There you go. All right. There you go. This is topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Go check it out. Let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with the Horn headlines. Then we'll come back and talk some Cowboys. We'll talk some Texans. We got a Rangers report. We also got Rod's Rather Day. We're jam-packed. So we'll get it all in right here. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with Patrick and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball had no problem taking care of Florida 10-0 in 5 innings on Saturday to advance in the Women's College World Series. After a dominant performance by Mag Morgan, who only allowed 1 hit in the game, the Longhorns will now face Stanford once again in a matchup where Texas has 2 chances to win 1 game to advance to the finals, where they will play the winner of Florida and Oklahoma. Texas baseball dropped 2 games in their regional this weekend, ending the Longhorn season in disappointing fashion. A heartbreaking 11-inning loss to Texas A&M on Saturday led the way to a return matchup with Louisiana on Sunday, where Texas could not get going, losing 10-2 and finishing their season earlier than expected. In Major League Baseball, the Astros dropped their series to the Twins over the weekend, with Ryan Presley giving up the go-ahead run on Sunday in the 8th inning. The Astros now move on to a series with the Cardinals, with Verlander taking the mound for the Astros tonight. And the Rangers took care of the Marlins 2-1, with Corey Seager extending his hitting streak to 15 games over the weekend and pulls the Rangers back to just a game under 500 on the season. They will now take on the Tigers this weekend, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. All right, first, let's talk some Cowboys here. There is a piece of audio from Jeremy Fowler that I want to play. Jeremy Fowler went on ESPN and apparently had some very optimistic things to say, positive things to say about the contract negotiations between Dak and the Cowboys. Let's get to this piece of audio, if you will, Patrick. Here is Jeremy Fowler on ESPN discussing the Cowboys' contract negotiations with Dak Prescott.
But they are all in on re-signing Dak Prescott. Eventually, they just haven't shown it yet. But I'm told behind the scenes they've made clear they don't want him to hit free agency in 2025. They want him to be the quarterback of the future. But their negotiation so far has been described to me as passive. So sometime this summer, they're going to have to ramp up the heat a little bit, come with a strong offer, and get the ball going. But they made clear they're going to do that. They're just slow playing it a little bit. And you've had some other quarterback comps. A little bit, yeah. They have some quarterback comps coming in. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville will probably get done at some point. Tua in Miami. Yeah. Maybe they're sort of setting the stage for themselves. And meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb, he can just sit back and watch and see what happens, and he'll get paid eventually.
So passive, but they're all in, kind of. So that's the first on the positivity I've heard about them getting the deal done, is that the Cowboys want to get it done. They do not want him to hit free agency in 2025 from an NFL insider. That's good news, Cowboys fans. Yes, all the other speculation that he's going to hit free agency, honestly, that would be worst case scenario for the Cowboys. They should re-sign him, and they need to re-sign CeeDee Lamb ASAP too before the price tag continues to go up, which it is. Right now, they're going to pay probably maybe Justin Jefferson still is the top, because maybe CD can't get Justin Jefferson money because Justin Jefferson might have a better case than CD. But right now, CD's between 30 and 35 million is what he's gonna get paid. Somewhere in between there.
Yeah. I think it's the big question is guaranteed money in that.
Yep, good point.
I think he'll probably get around 33, 34 a year right now is what we're looking at.
It's kind of looking like
but it did guarantee. Justin Jefferson got 110 guaranteed, and I think the Cowboys are going to try and get that probably to be closer to 90.
Yeah, because Waddle's numbers crazy.
Almost
most of
fully,
his damn the whole
and so
thing
I think that's where the Cowboys may allow a little bit more in the money, but then say, well, yeah, but we'd like an out in that fourth year. We'd like a clean out.
Yeah, if I was a receiver, man, I'd take those kind of Waddle deals. I'd be like, make it short term. Just give me most of it guaranteed.
Yeah,
I just want and I don't even have to be the highest paid or near the highest paid, but I'd like most of it to be guaranteed. That's the real money in the NFL. Everything else is funny money, guys.
Yeah,
everything else is a fugazi. They just work. They can work their way out of any of that other money, but the guaranteed money is the one thing they cannot work their way out of. It's guaranteed, baby. That's what really counts.
Like if you look at that Tyreek Hill deal, part of what. He was super high paid, but that last year of his contract is exorbitant. He's not going to play under it, and his guaranteed on money on that is not a lot. So if you look at it in one sense, it's like I think it's like 40-something million for that last year of his contract, something like that. But it's like the guaranteed's not there, so it's not really, and he's not going to make that much. They're just going to get rid of him.
They're going to restructure, get rid of him, trade him, or something. They already know that. That's why we don't even care what that number looks like, because we won't be playing for us with that number. Now it's a good point there. All right, let's hit this CJ Stroud sound. CJ Stroud was on a podcast. He's a beloved member of the media, so he's always doing something. So he always gives us great content. So he was on the podcast, and he was asked about his top quarterbacks just from the 2023 season. And a lot of people were surprised at what CJ Stroud had to say, but CJ Stroud knows his stuff. He has informed opinions. He doesn't just spout out nonsense. Here's what CJ Stroud said about his top 5 QBs from the 2023 season.
Oh, no, I'm tripping. Let me go. I'm going.
Tripping?
So look, final 5. I know what I'm doing, dog. Mahomes, Lamar, myself, Dak,
Joey B.
No, he didn't really play last year. And then Hurts.
Dak, that boy. Y'all not gonna say that because he ain't won the big one.
You said Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, Matthew, but he was top 5. Cowboys thing.
Well, you gonna put Dak Prescott in there over Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I got.
I'm saying off of last year, dog. He ain't play all year. He got hurt.
Well, we can
Burrow,
find somebody.
Burrow, one of my favorite players. I'm out of my game after Burrow a little bit. Like,
Why
me
you
and Burrow got
Cowboys.
Oh,
Bro,
Eagles and
Dak is that
Cowboys,
dude,
they don't
bro.
like each
What?
other like that? I ain't know all that.
What?
I ain't see. I don't be knowing all that.
Dak tough, bro.
I'm
Dak
just
is one of the most accurate quarterbacks.
Y'all got to
in
see them
the
this year,
world.
don't you?
Yeah, we playing.
Oh my God, the battle of Texas.
You're gonna take care
Monday
of that for
night
me. Yeah,
Where y'all
care of
playing
that
at?
for me, man.
in Dallas.
I love how complimentary he remember. See, just complimented him the whole time. They keep talking, and he's like, "Dak's that dude. I'm telling you, Dak's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the world." Cowboys fans, CJ Stroud likes your quarterback than most of y'all Cowboys fans like y'all's quarterback. You realize that? CJ Stroud had by the way, CJ Stroud did clarify his top 5. He basically bumped Jalen Hurts off the list on social media, on his Instagram. He said top 5 off of last year. Pat number 1, Lamar number 2, myself number 3. Still loves himself. I like that. Number 4, Josh Allen, and then he put number 5, Dak Prescott. So he loves him some Dak Prescott, y'all. So if CJ Stroud loves Dak Prescott more than you, and you're a Cowboys fan, maybe you need to reevaluate. I mean, he was second team All Pro last year, right? Second on the MVP voting. It's just, Cowboys fans. It's one of those things where Cowboys fans, like half of them hate Dak. And then everybody who is not a Cowboys fan hate Dak too. So this feel like there's a lot of Dak haters, only because the Cowboys fans are not themselves as a whole, as a fan base. They are not necessarily on board with Dak, and they don't fully support Dak. Happened to Romo too. I used to be a Romo sexual. Happened to Romo too. My take is that those quarterbacks, because they were undrafted free agents and 4th round picks that ended up being franchise quarterbacks for the Cowboys, that Cowboys fans never really accepted them. A part of it is the postseason success. Trust me, that's a big part of it. But there's no denying like their aptitude and their competence and their productivity at the quarterback position. But Cowboys fans don't care about any of that, and they're still, I think, relatively harsh in their criticism of Dak and Romo. Even after Dak had his best season ever, Cowboys fans don't care. All they care about is Dak Prescott can't make it past the divisional round. And they're right about that.
Yeah.
If Dak makes it past the divisional round, he's going to change his legacy forever with Cowboys fans, potentially. Because that's what happened with Romo. Romo never got past the divisional round. Remember, Romo, the Cowboys are, I'll give you this stat, and it's upsetting. The Cowboys are basically 0-7 in the marking divisional rounds. And they are one of the only franchises to have multiple quarterbacks who couldn't get past the divisional round, who were in the division round that many times. It's just rare to have multiple quarterbacks start 3 or more divisional games and go winless. Yeah. It just doesn't happen a lot. So Cowboys fans can't get over that, and they can't get over the fact that Dak was a 4th round pick at one point. Tony Romo was undrafted, but ultimately they got to find a way to get past division round. Cowboys are the only franchise with 2 quarterbacks to play in 3 or more divisional round games without winning one. The only team in history to have that happen, and it's been Romo and Dak. And it's crazy. Like it's just like I said, Cowboys fans been going through it in that respect. All right, there you go. That's some Cowboys. Oh, also another Cowboys nugget I want to throw out there. Deuce Vaughn is working with the wide receivers in the slot. Just a little OTA nugget thrown out there. I saw that earlier this week. So I don't know what that means for the Cowboys, but hey, good. They can try to find a way to use Deuce Vaughn and get him in slot. They do. They need receivers because they don't even have the Cowboys' true number 2 receiver. If you look at EPA and productivity, it's probably Jake Ferguson. And that's not shocking because at one point Dalton Schultz was probably the number 2 guy, and not for Dak when he was there. But yeah, Brandon Cooks had a letdown last year. CeeDee Lamb is in another stratosphere. He's elite at this point. But they do need to figure out their wide receiving targets, like target rates. Like, they don't have a true number 2 wide receiver. They don't have a number 3. Now, Brandon Cooks may become that again, but in terms of wide receiver, Jake Ferguson actually, in terms of EPA, expected points added, was a lot more productive and efficient last year than Brandon Cooks was. All right, enough Cowboys talk and Texas talk. Let's get to our Rangers report. We'll do Rod's rant on the other side, but real quick, let's get to our Rangers report.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
All right, the Rangers. How about this, man? Rangers outscored the Marlins 13-0 over the final 2 games of their series in Miami, pitching back-to-back shutouts, which hadn't happened in a long time. The Texas Rangers will be trying to get back to 500 today. They'll be facing the Motor City Kitties, so everybody's trying to think positive to get the Rangers back to 500. But speaking more about the 2 shutouts in a row for the Rangers, how about some historical context here? So this is tied for the 4th longest shutout streak in Rangers history. The last time they did it was in 2016 when Cole Hamels, Matt Bush, and Sam Dyson combined for a shutout against the A's on September 3rd. And then Yu Darvish, Alex Claudio, and Tanner Scheppers and Jake Diekman combined for a shutout of the A's the following day. So it's been a while. The longest shutout streak in Rangers history, actually, April 27th, 1981 through April 30th, 1981. Texas shut out Boston in 3 straight games, then shut out the Kansas City Royals for a number 4. Damn. Games 1, 3, and 4 in the streak were Doc Medic, Danny Darwin, Rick Honeycutt. Game 2 featured Fergie Jenkins for 3 innings, Steve Comer, and Bob Babcock as well. So there you go. A little historical context there. They did have 3 shutouts in a row in July of 2011 with Matt Harrison, Derek Holland, and Kobe Lewis as the starters, and Neftali Feliz picking up saves in 2 of those games. The first was against Oakland at home. The next 2 were in Seattle. Man, they've actually been able to shut out. Well, I guess if you're going to shut out somebody, Oakland's not a bad team to be doing it against. Probably easier than other teams. But there you go. Little historical context on back-to-back shutouts for the Texas Rangers. There you go.
Yeah,
they also had one in 2008, in case you forgot.
Yeah, see if they can get another one tonight against the Marlins.
That'd be amazing. I mean, that'd give them the 3. Like I said, then they'd be close to their record. I believe said 4. I believe was the franchise record here. But yeah, good for the Rangers. And it's crazy with all the injuries they've had to their pitching staff. Their pitching really has not, it really has not fallen off that badly. It's been the bullpen they've had issues and getting a lot of run support. And when the Rangers get healthy, I expect the Rangers to once again be a force to be reckoned with. But right now, they're trying to get back to 500.
No, and I mean, you look to have Eovaldi on the mound tonight, so you have a good pitching outset. They're going against Skubal, who is 7-1 on the season with a 2.01 ERA, though. So gonna try and get those hits and get those bats going tonight.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so there's our Rangers report brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
All right, we'll come back. We'll get into some NFL discussion. Special teams coaches thinking outside the box about this new kickoff return rule in the NFL. And also, I want to talk a little bit about the Caitlin Clark situation happening in the WNBA. The ratings are up through the roof. People are complaining that she's getting a little harsh treatment from her fellow WNBA peers. We'll talk about that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Hey, I want to tell you about our friends at Texan Windows. They are your new and replacement window experts here in Central Texas. You can discover affordable windows and sliding glass doors. I know I use my backyard plenty this weekend. If you're using yours and you need a new sliding glass door, hit our friends up at Texan Windows. Or maybe you're looking to up your curb appeal. Been working in the yard a lot and You want to see a better look at that yard. Maybe you want to turn some of those windows you're not using because the heat is too much. You turn those into big picture windows. They can do that for you. Or maybe you want to turn them into usable windows and get some airflow through your house. You can do that as well. All of that can be done with our friends at Texan Windows, but it's not just about the look.
Not just about the look at all, Patrick. If you've noticed your energy bills are too high, or you're starting to notice a lot of precipitation inside your windows, inside of your windows are foggy, that probably means your windows are not properly insulated and you don't have energy efficient windows. All the windows from Texan Windows are made with argon-filled double pane low E glass to keep your home cool in those Texas hot summer days, but also to keep your house warm during those winter months as well. Energy efficient windows from Texan Windows can save you money on your annual energy bills, folks. That alone should make it worth it for you to reach out to Texan Windows, but that's not the only reason. Man, Patrick mentioned the curb appeal, but what about the safety of your home, the safety of your family? That should also be a top priority for you. I got an 8-month-old. I've been childproofing everything around the house. Didn't think about childproofing the windows until I talked to our friends over at Texan Windows, and that may be something that you can think about as well. And not only childproofing your windows, but thinking about, do your windows have the latest safety technology and safety protocols? My friends at Texan Windows can make sure that they do, to make sure that everything in your home and your home itself are protected. All you got to do is reach out to our friend at Texan Windows.
And you can do that at TexanWindows.com, or you can call 855-55-TEXAN. Get a hassle-free estimate by email or over the phone, whatever's easier for you. Or you can go ahead and stop by their showroom. Got a new one there in Buda or over in Fort Worth. Check out their in-stock windows. That's TexanWindows.com. Texan Windows, your Central Texas window experts.
So we all know the NFL is expecting a huge spike in kickoff returns this season with the change to the kickoff return, now a hybrid NFL XFL kickoff return. Remember, XFL had upwards of a 90% return rate. And looking at it, that was that they're not going to have the 90% return rate in the NFL, but their touchbacks had reached an all-time high. And I believe you were at that point where only 30% of NFL kickoffs were being returned. So now they're expecting somewhere between 60% of kickoffs to be returned, and they're expecting more dynamic plays on kickoff returns. So special teams coaches are making sure that they plan accordingly. And special teams coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, he recently threw out something that could be considered unorthodox, but hey, maybe it's genius. He may actually take his kicker, Harrison Butker, off the field and put in a defender who can kick to help with the coverage of this new kickoff return rule. The special teams coach is Dave Tubb. He's the special teams coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen to when he's asked about the new kickoff return rule and how he's adjusting as a coach. But then he's asked about bringing in Justin Reed, the safety, as a kicker, and he seems to be on board.
I like to have somebody that can go back, is able to make a tackle. I mean, Bucker's able to make a tackle, but I really don't want him making tackles all year long. If you watch the XFL, we watched every play. I bet kickers were involved in probably at least 25 to 40% of the tackles. Either trying to make a guy bounce back or making the tackle itself or just missing the tackle. So, we don't want Bucker in that situation, but he will be a kicker. He'll be a guy that we will use in certain situations. He's got a lot of ability to move the ball, whereas those other guys may not be as, apt to doing that. And, we'll use him. He can still kick a touchback if we need it. You're just giving up the ball. If we do kick a touchback out of the back of the end zone, now they're getting out to 30 instead of the 25. So that 5 yards makes a big difference. I mean, that's another 3% chance that, you're giving the offense against you to score. So
what's the early evaluation on guys like Justin Reed?
Well, Justin can cover. I mean, he can kick, which he can do, and then he can go down there and make tackles. He's an extra guy that they're probably not accounting for. They know that guy can go down and tackle, but a guy like Justin is a guy that they have to worry about. You have to get him blocked, and they have to give up blocking somebody else. So, that's the whole thought of that.
Is it something about different kick styles that might help you out as you're doing this?
It's really, hang time doesn't matter at all now. So hang time is out the door. I mean, you could do it, but it's not, doesn't mean anything. But, so now it's about accuracy, seeing what you're getting, how the returners are lined up, and then trying to kick away from them in the corners. But you can't take too much of a risk, because if you hit it out of bounds, now you're giving the ball up at the 40. If you hit it short of the target zone, you're giving the ball to the 40. So, I mean, there's a fine line between, pushing the limits, the edges, and then, or just going down and saying, hey, we can cover it. We're going to, give them a ball that they can cover, and then go down there with a kicker that can cover.
All right, there you go. See, he's talking about taking Butker off the field sometimes to put in Justin Reed to kick. And then there's the Browns special teams coordinator who, he's thinking also to doing something drastic, but his idea essentially is to turn your kickers, his name is Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coordinator for the Browns, to turn his kickers into better defenders and better coverage specialists. Here is the special teams coordinator for the Browns.
Could this new kickoff rule expose kickers to maybe having to do more of that?
I think you're
kind of there by themselves back there.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to, I would say, spend more time with the kickers on, true tackling technique. And we've actually talked to the defensive secondary coaches about getting with our guys on some of the drills that they do. So, yeah, I think that you're going to have to anticipate that those guys are going to have to make a few more tackles.
Could this new kickoff rule?
You had one train of thought. We're going to turn our kickers into better tacklers, have them working out with linebackers and DBs. And the other train of thought is no, we're going to turn a DB into a kicker. I don't know which one's going to work better, but at least it shows you that teams are thinking outside the box. It is a little different. The NFL kickers, because it's a hybrid return rule, so they won't be in the same place as the XFL kickers. NFL kickers won't likely be involved in the same number of tackles, just because the NFL, the kicker is not able to cross the 50 until the ball is caught. And I think the XFL kicker didn't have any restrictions where they can go do whatever they want to after they kicked off the football. All right, so there you go. That is some of the.
And that's the one we say for Texans fans. If you remember, Dare Ungabawale, is that it?
Oh, yes, you're right.
He is the one who had to come in when the Texans had the injuries at kicker and kicked it was an extra point or a field goal and had that, and then had a kickoff as well. And I was one of those big celebrations because just a position player did it. But he's a running back, so you could see that, he's the one that the Texans would say, that's a guy that, if you spend an offseason kind of working on his kickoffs, he is a big guy with speed that maybe you could put in there and say, man, you're a 30-year-old running back who's kind of on the end of the depth chart. There's a way for you to keep on a roster.
It is. I mean, think about if it becomes like a real weapon and these plays become really impactful, which they assume they will be. I'm with you, Patrick. I think you may get some teams that if a guy's that specialized, if he's a kind of a guy that can kick but also cover and play a different position, maybe a third string, whatever. Hell yeah. I think you'll have a roster spot ready for that guy because he's so specialized. So who knows where this new kickoff return's going for the NFL. All right, real quick, I want to just get your thoughts about the Caitlin Clark situation for those who have not heard. So and I actually got a chance to watch the end of this game too, which is crazy because my wife had it on. So Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, they were facing off against was it the Chicago Sky they were facing off against? Yes, it was Chicago Sky they were facing off against. And Kennedy Carter, who plays for the Sky. And apparently, Angel Reese is also on the Sky team. That's got to be torn out too.
Yes.
So that adds to the element of vitriol here because Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have been going at it since college, since AAU days, way back in the day, and they're rivals. I think they also respect each other, but they are rivals. And Angel Reese plays on this other team. And Caitlin Clark, by the way, the Fever won this game. But they're terrible. I think like 2-out in the season.
Yeah.
They didn't win that game. But at the end of the game or toward the end, I think maybe it's in the third quarter. So it's toward the end of the game in the second half. Caitlin Clark is fouled by Kennedy Carter. And it's a hard hip check. I'm sure by now you've seen it. It's crossed your timeline. If not, Google Caitlin Clark or search for Caitlin Clark and you'll see it. I guarantee you. But apparently there's video of the woman Kennedy Carter also calling her something that I can't repeat on the radio before she hip checked her. And then when she hip checked her, some people would think that Caitlin Clark flopped, but some people thought, oh man, it's necessary. And by the way, after the game, the WNBA, they did upgrade that foul. It was a common foul. At first, they upgraded to a flagrant foul. It probably should have been a flagrant on the spot. They upgraded to a flagrant foul. And now the discussion is multiple discussions here, Patrick. Number one, her teammates didn't come help her. So now there's talks like, why didn't her teammates come help her when she's being, abused by the opposing team? That's number one. Number two is, are we seeing this is a trend across the WNBA in all the games that she's played so far? And at least the opinion is, at least the majority opinion is, yes, this has happened a lot and it's happening to her and they're targeting her specifically. So I'm gonna ask you, are they targeting Caitlin Clark specifically? And if so, first of all, why are her teammates helping her out? And then what do you do about it?
So first off, yes, they're targeting her clearly. And I mean, you target every generational talent. If anybody comes in and is touted as the next great thing, that's what happens. And historically you've seen they target people with physicality because that's something you can do. Whether your talent level doesn't have to be great. I'm not very talented. I played all the time. If I was playing someone better than me, I would bump them a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's the only equalizer I had in the game was I can throw you off your game because I can stick a leg out or I can take you on the sideline. And every time you cut on that baseline, I'm knocking you 3 feet out of bounds. And I'm going to watch the ref's eyes and bump you with the shoulder, bump you with the hip. Like that's the only equalizer I have in the game. And so that's what these players are going to be doing is, you understand, I'm going to go now. There, like that hip check is dumb because you're in the center of the court. It's a much more noticeable hip check, and it wasn't terrible. It's not like there's worse penalties. People do worse things to rookies, and
it wasn't egregious.
It wasn't egregious. I think it was that she did it like 3 or 4 times in the game. She kept doing it. Every time she would come up to defend, she would literally walk up and then it wouldn't. There's an easier way to do it. And there's an easier way to just go, oh, I was trying to get from point A to point B, and she stepped into the way, and that's what it is. So you can't slow down and then hip check somebody. That's just someone not being good enough at knowing how to be dirty. You gotta watch old film.
Not discreet enough.
Watch, oh, what film?
You're doing it Draymond Green style. You just come on, this is obvious.
No, I mean, back in the day, I watched Karl Malone stuff to realize how to be a dirty player. Like how to get. I watched Karl Malone, and you would just watch him, and there was all these little tricks that you could pull off, and like I pulled off tricks on in pickup games, and people on their own team would be like, "Man, why you found Patrick like that?" I'm like, I didn't foul me. I just selling that one. But you could do those. So it becomes a danger. So that's what you're gonna have to deal with. They knew she was going into it. As far as the players not helping, I don't know how much of that is a WNBA thing versus how much of that is the Indiana Fever having a really bad culture, hence why they're an awful team. That could also be part of it, is that they're just, they're not put together correctly from the very top to the bottom, and they're expecting to have Caitlin Clark save it. I do not know. I'm not far enough into the WNBA to be able to break down the Fever's problems.
We're all new to this, man. We're all just getting involved with this.
But
thing,
but historically, especially in basketball, but in other sports, like if you're a rookie quarterback, they're going to try to kill you.
Yeah, you get the business.
And so that's just part of the game. That's part of being in professional sports. Everybody wants your spot, and they're competitors. They want to win, so they're going to try and do whatever they can to get over it. As far as what the WNBA should be doing, and what you have to, at a certain point, ref the game with her in favor, knowing what your audience is, and find that thin line between, feeling like it's somewhat rigged in her favor to just letting other teams know, if you're going to try and be this over, like if you're going to overly do it to her, we're going to start calling everything, and you guys are going to foul out of games. So play her like a regular person, and we'll call it like regular. But if you start doing this, we know what you're doing. You can't do that because you know why you're on charter flights? Because of her.
Because of her.
And you can say it's unfair all you want. And yes, it is unfair. And you could say that this is not how it should work, and that you want to, but all these things you're fighting for are because of her right now. You're getting the press, and the WNBA is doing a great job, and the NBA is part of that machine. They're trying to keep this going as far as they can. And you don't want them to make a name on you, but there's a difference of doing that and then losing a game where you still did that.
Yeah, you still lost. Yeah, still lost.
and so it's like, I get it to a point, but I think there's certain players. The reality is the better players in the WNBA are not doing it as heavily. They're face guarding her. They're playing good defense, and they're being physical, but it's not over the top. But there's a lot of players in the WNBA that are just a level below, and they're pissed off because they're like, why is it this chick that gets all this attention? You're like, it doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And look, we can go into all the reasons, and there's different theories, and some of them are controversial and some are not. It does not matter. Do you want to make more money playing basketball? Then suck it up and don't injure her.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think the league, they should at least make sure that they're trying to call it accordingly.
Yeah,
there's a reason in the NBA stars get the calls because of what you just brought up. They understand people are watching to see the stars. And you don't want to see the stars get all banged up, and you don't want to see them essentially have to play a really a mucked up style of basketball. Like, we want to see Caitlin Clark in the open floor. Everybody wants to see her playing her style of brand of basketball. That's why they're tuning in. So I agree with you. Also, I think the culture of the team, of the Fever themselves, maybe they do need to bring in a veteran who can, help them with that culture. Because that's a simple fix to me. Oh, somebody is picking on your superstar. Protect your star. That happens in every sport at every level. Hell, high school teams know, hey, don't pick on our best player, man. You know what I mean? We're gonna fight then. That's gonna be some hands thrown. And by the way, Caitlin Clark too. I know this sounds crazy. Every now she has to step up. And I ain't saying no swing, but push, get in somebody's face. You know what I mean? She needs to fight back a little bit too, because I think I watched her and she just kind of gets pushed around and then walks on back.
Yeah,
I need her to be a little bit more confrontational too. When the Jordan rules came down, it was only so long before MJ started fighting back and swinging too and throwing some elbows himself. I know she's a classy young lady, but now this is how MJ, I think, gained favor with a lot of NBA fans, because they saw him go through it. They saw him get clotheslined and elbowed upside the head and went, man, MJ's going through it. This is kind of rite of passage for him. I think, like you said, this is a rite of passage for great players. This is the Clark rules. These are the Caitlin rules.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome them? What did MJ do? gained about 15 pounds, put on some muscle, and gained an attitude.
Yeah.
A nasty mean streak that he didn't have before. Maybe it's what Caitlin Clark needs, a nasty mean streak. And we don't like to see it on women, but these are highly competitive athletes. So whether you like to see women doing it, I think part of it is we don't like to see women, with cheap shots and playing dirty. It's like, well, that's sports too. So y'all got to get used to that too.
Yeah, none of this is surprising to anyone who, doesn't think that the WNBA is a different world than regular sports. There's just a lot of people that are watching sports for the first time and watching basketball for the first time because they just are not NBA fans, and they finally got someone that they feel they can identify with and Caitlin Clark, and they're watching those games, and that's great. It's great for the game. But yeah, you just have to kind of educate them. Like, this is not surprising. This is what we knew was going to happen because this is what happens to generational talents, and how she deals with adversity is what makes players great.
Amen to that, brother. All right, we come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven, play a little Who Said That right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. We all know it's a great city. That's why people keep moving to Austin. That also, continues to make the city one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, well, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were actually built and constructed by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. And now they're hiring over 3,000 people because they're constructing another big project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So if you are thinking about a refreshing career change, or you want an exciting employment opportunity, or you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valuable member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482. And right now it's a perfect time to do it. So go online and apply today at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast. That's what my man Patrick, the Idealionaire, he plays jams that are intended to make sure you ease your way into the work week. We know the work week can slap you in the face with meetings and deadlines, and Monday can be really stressful, especially coming off the relaxing, fun-filled weekend hopefully everybody had. So in order to make that a smooth transition, my man Patrick hooks you up with a Smooth Soul Monday. All right. Time for Who Said That. I sent
I got one for you. We'll
you
play.
got one
Yeah,
for
I got
us?
one for you.
I got a couple here that I've sent to you. So whatever you got, we're ready for it. We play Who Said That. That's when my man Patrick, he comes up with pieces of audio, and sometimes they're from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, but then based on the context clues, based on the familiarity of the voice, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that.
JJ Watt. We've heard it. Him and D'Amico. Any legs to this? Is he coming out of retirement? What's going on?
We'll see. I think JJ's got enough going on right now. But
once
the season starts, then I think that's when the competitive juices get going. So D'Amico has an open door policy for JJ. So we'll see how it goes.
You're not. I'm giving you the opportunity to close the door on this nonsense, and you're leaving it open.
You want me to no comment it?
No, I want you to be honest. Like that could happen. Like what are we? That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead here. I think we're just focused on the spring and just try to get through the rest of the spring here and get the summer vacation, honestly.
All right. That's Nick Caserio refusing to close the door, refusing to shut the door on the rumor that D'Amico Ryan started, by the way, that if need be, they will call JJ Watt out of retirement to give them some reps, some snaps in a game. And he said the playoffs. He's like, call me in the playoffs. Don't call me for the regular season. When you need me in the playoffs, hit me up.
Yeah.
It's a possibility still.
I think it's if we get down, if it starts to get later in the season, and then there's like a banged up player, and then, hey man, JJ, make sure you're in shape.
Wow.
But you
got to be in shape though. You got to be
in shape. So you'd have to know like later in the season that there were some depth issues, and start getting ready, and then if the depth issues turned into something worse. And I mean, look,
honestly,
the reality is we all think that if there's a roster spot available and you're making a Super Bowl run, you should sign JJ Watt, even if he just sits on the bench so he gets a ring.
That's exactly. I was going to say you should do it anyway, just for the sentimental value of it. You should do it. You should have him suit up and bring Andre Johnson out there too. Put him in.
I feel like Andre's a little bit older.
Yeah. Bring all the great Texans from back in the day.
So Andre Johnson and JJ Watt.
And JJ Watt. Yeah,
bring them all back. Those
two of them. Just those two. Maybe Arian Foster. I don't know. Is Arian Foster in that category?
I don't know because he didn't have the longevity. He got to stay a while.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Those are your two. That's the only two you need.
I mean, that was like I remember Chester Pitts used to be always around the organization doing stuff. You're like Chester. This is not the legend we need around us.
Yeah, I think that's it for the greats. I think we're right. I think that's it. So you can do that.
Sorry, David Carr. We're not putting you.
No, sorry, Carr. No, not happening, buddy. Not happening at all. All right, thank you there, Patrick. That's the Who Said That. We appreciate that as always. Tomorrow we'll do more breakdown of the NBA Finals. I promise you that. I wanted to get to some of my Texas football breakdown, but we got plenty of time. That's evergreen as well. So we'll get to NBA Finals tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more Texas football. Oh, real quick, I wanted to tell you guys this. There are like 4 hard knocks this year. I didn't even realize this. So remember last week we talked about the Chicago Bears. They're going to be the regular training camp version.
Yeah.
But there's the Giants are doing the off-season edition, which is they're going to cover free agency and the draft. So basically they're already done with that. That'll probably be coming out here soon. And then there's an in-season version now, where they're going to cover an entire division.
Okay.
And they're going to follow 4 teams in a division. So, like I said, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. A lot of reality TV.
A lot of
focused
reality
on football. Yeah, they're all going to be
just
teams
garbage.
that don't even
reality
don't make
TV.
the playoffs. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Patrick. You're the real MVP. Thank you guys out there for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until next time, same channel. Hook up. Peace.